plan D was within that week. It was, we can't count on other businesses anymore. Like, we don't know if a contract is going to come next week, and we're just living contract to contract, and they're going to change prices on us, or they're going to reject an order because sales are low, and they're going to find an excuse to cancel it. So Dave had the idea, we're going to start our own clothing line. And that's, we're going to only depend on ourselves and not depend on other people ever again.
Welcome to the Know Your Ship podcast, presented by eHub. I'm your host, Frank Dolce.
Welcome in. I'm so excited to have you guys today. That's so thoughtful. I know you're busy, and I know that this is another big chunk of your time. So,
We're excited.
If we start talking about athletics, it may go off the rails.
I know.
Honestly,
I mean,
I love
I'm a big
sports.
fan.
I'm a big
we were
fan
just talking
too.
beforehand. I mean, Jose in the '90s at Rice Eccles.
And here we are again.
I mean, come on.
1890s.
I mean, it was the best time in football. Bombs, big hits, like big shoulder pads. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like big thigh pads.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I still think
Absolutely.
those, like when I see somebody from back then, like you see Randy Moss, like in high school or something, he has these big thigh pads. Like, I'm just like, he looks so cool. Like, you guys look the coolest. Your jerseys, I just want them to do the same jerseys you guys wore. Just red, it's just a red and white, mostly red, 2 stripes with the, with the U.
Don't get him started on helmets.
With the
This
drum
guy
and
can
feather.
talk
Yeah,
about
with the drum and
helmets
feather.
for
That's
hours.
it. That's it.
Yeah.
Just, and maybe some like, with a high rise.
Oh, a little crop?
Yeah, Liz used to wear the crops a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like,
That was-
you see a little like abs at the bottom, maybe?
I couldn't do that because you have to have abs to do that. But Luther Ellis.
Yes.
Right?
That's what, I mean, maybe that's where my head
Luther
went.
Ellis did that. And he was a defensive lineman, defensive end. By the time he left the U, he came in at like 235 pounds. By the time he left, he was almost 300 pounds.
Oh, my gosh.
He was still running with the linebackers when we would do drills and
No
stuff.
way.
And he had a 6-pack.
Wow.
He was the guy that was pumping up the crowd.
Yeah.
Anyway, that has nothing to do with Albion Fit. Dave
pump-
and Liz Finley.
I could go on. 90s football, man, yes.
Is Finley is that your real last name, or was that shortened at some point?
I think it goes back to Scotland, New Milnes, Scotland.
We made the mistake of going there.
Yeah,
last
we
Christmas.
did. We went back. It was in December. That's not the best time to go to Scotland. It was like a huge
We went up
storm
to
there.
like the North Sea. We sat
We
there.
should have taken a train. We drove, which was a little intense.
Yeah,
but we did go to New Milnes. It was pouring rain. I was like,
The wind was blowing.
At first, I was like, I want to go back. My skin's gonna feel good, because my skin's so dry in Utah. But then I went back there, and it was just raining and pouring. I'm like, they made the right choice. maybe
to
this
come
summer
over.
it's way better, but it was. I mean, anyways, the golf there's amazing. I hear.
You didn't golf while you were there?
Well, our girls.
No, we went to St. Andrews.
We went to St.
We
Andrews.
stayed
I know.
at St. Andrews
On like the 18th hole.
But the day we went, it was go to Harry Styles' filming location.
Our
of
daughters. We took
one
our
of his
daughters.
music videos or St. Andrews. And so what we did is
A
we
detour.
went on a detour for the whole day, but it was cool, man. It was a
It
cool
was pretty.
spot.
It was a great song.
But we
It was a
got to
great
St.
music
Andrews
video.
at like 4 o'clock. It was a beautiful day. People were playing golf, and we just watched wherever that that bridge. We just watched people play on that for.
Swillican Bridge.
There you go.
Yeah.
People are walking their dogs.
I've been on that bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
the North Sea is right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where they filmed Chariots of Fire.
No way.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I love that movie.
Yeah. And there's
we
a
were there.
there's
We
a,
would have spent more time, except our daughters
they
had a
had
detour.
Yeah, they detoured you. The other thing about St. Andrews, there's the college.
Yes, we did
Yeah.
get to explore that.
Okay.
Yes.
There's a tradition at the college. I think it happens about this time in the year, the spring, right? Where everybody in the town and the college students go down to the beach, strip down, and
Take a
jump
dip.
into the North
Wow.
Sea.
No way.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was there.
Dave,
while they
did
were
you do
doing
Are
that?
you serious?
it. Would you,
Did you
do it?
go? Did you go with
No,
them?
I was such a
Dave
baby.
just did that for fun.
No, I would not do that.
I was such a baby. I was like, I'm gonna undress in front of all these people I don't know. It should have been like, yeah, I'll undress in front of everybody I know. Who cares?
Yeah.
They don't know me.
I know.
That's what I should have
Flip
done.
it.
Maybe we can go back.
That's
Go
a
back.
Go
good
back.
mindset.
Go back.
I'm gonna find out when that is. Okay.
That's awesome.
So this is a great story. The Albion Fit story is a great story, and how you guys met and started building this company and where you are today. So I'd really like to go through that story,
Yeah.
if you'd like to do that. If
Yeah.
you want to talk about something else, we can do that.
We
too.
might
get
end up talking
sidetracked.
about other things.
Yeah.
There'll be some
It
Yeah.
might keep going back to football 90s because I thought you were. I mean, that was so fun, man. But I'll
Jared-
try to keep us on track.
Jared, who's producing for us today, he'll tell you, I don't feel constrained by an outline.
I love it.
I
That
always
sounds
have an
great.
outline, and then it goes all over the place. I just think it makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
And so
We're easy.
we'd really like people to know more about you. And I really like the lessons in your story. So, and if we can take it the way that you've done it in the past, like
Yeah.
this plan
Okay.
A, plan B, plan C, plan D. I don't know if any
Yeah.
the other parts have come up, but
Not yet.
why don't we start there? First of all, I'll ask you a question. You both grew up in Utah
Did not really.
because you,
I grew up, so born and raised in California.
uh-huh.
And then when I was 9, we moved to Guatemala. My mom is from Guatemala,
Yep.
but my dad's from Salt Lake
And your dad was,
in real estate.
he retired?
He-
You went to Guatemala.
He had a midlife crisis. Now that we're entering into that age, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
my dad
Now you
was
know what's happening.
45.
Kind of understand.
Daddy had a midlife crisis.
lay of the land.
Yeah, he was like, I'm done. I'm retired. We're gonna go live this, alternate experience in Guatemala. It'll be great for the kids. You'll learn Spanish. You'll learn anyway. So
But this is key to the story.
It is,
Because
yeah.
he got bored.
he got bored.
Yeah.
He wanted to golf, and then I guess after about a year, he got bored. And my dad always had an entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just did. And
He is always moving. He's always doing
Yeah.
stuff. He's always going on trips. He's a doer.
Yeah.
He's just one of those people who's always kind of like bringing people together.
Yes. And he just loves trying new things, and he loves a challenge. And I think at first, the impetus was to keep my mom busy. He was going to buy her this little factory, and it'll keep Lucy busy, and they can sew things for the local market, and it'll be fun. And then he just got more and more involved. And then before you knew it, the family's life savings has been invested in this business.
Yeah.
But it was really great for our family. It was really great for Guatemala. Truthfully, people knew my dad as the crazy gringo because he came in and he helped put in processes that helped raise minimum wage. He helped bring in the maquila, which is the sewing industry, to Guatemala because it wasn't there before, or just very, very undeveloped.
He helped kind of build the bridge between like what Americans, they'd feel comfortable with him, working with him. And so he really brought a lot of business down to Guatemala with the sewing. And after that, I think it was one of the first real stops that they kind of offshore things. And it's just, he had like a safe space for people to feel.
People loved that he was an American. There was no language barrier.
Yeah.
There was no cultural barrier. And honestly, the time zone was great, right? You were just an hour or the same time as people in the States.
Oh.
And then the people in Guatemala loved working with my mom because she was Guatemalan and she spoke their language and she understood them. And so they worked together. My mom handled like the sewing floor and developed the team there. And then my dad handled more of their partner and relationships.
So when he bought the factory, what were they producing initially?
So one of the first customers that I remember was Ocean Pacific. Do you guys remember the
OP?
OP? Yeah.
Are you kidding?
So that
I
was
grew
one
up
of the
on
first.
OP corduroy shorts.
Yes.
Those are awesome. I know OP's like been in like maybe like Walmart and some other places, but I don't care. Whenever I see that OP symbol, I'm
It's
just
so
like,
nostalgic.
yes.
So that was one of the very first customers. And so they worked with Janssen. They did swimwear with Janssen. They worked with Nike. They worked with Reebok. They did NFL jerseys. And the company just grew and grew and grew. And
And it was your dad who was getting these contracts.
yeah.
Okay.
And it was great. They never had to solicit work. They just had a great reputation, and people loved working with my parents.
Yeah. Interesting.
I
Okay.
mean, it's amazing. Even you go to Guatemala today, and like, there's like a place. It's called Bolivar. It's the Avenida Bolivar, and there's this place, and there's all this fabric there, and all these trims, and all this stuff. And I really think that's where their factory started. And I think it really is like where you go to buy fabric in
It kind of
Guatemala
became
City.
the garment district.
Yeah,
where
and
my
it kind
parents
of
started their
because it was
factory.
like all the leftovers kind of like got. Anyways, so it's interesting. Even to this day, I feel like there's a legacy there.
Okay. So you were in Guatemala, but obviously you didn't stay there because you ended up meeting Dave in a copy room.
Yes.
In Utah.
Salt Lake City. So I went to this really small school for American LDS kids. So you could imagine how many of us there were. There was like 13.
Yeah.
And so you were essentially tutored there. And so I finished high school when I was 15. So took the ACTs when I was 13, and they just really kind of ship you off to BYU. And my dad was a Utah fan. My dad was a third generation University of Utah. He wanted me to go to University of Utah, and he wanted me to have a American high school experience, which I didn't have. And so the idea was for me to come back to Salt Lake and live with my dad's brother, I had a cousin that was my age, finish up high school at Olympus where my dad went, and just kind of redo a couple years. I still graduated a year early, but so finished that and then went to the University of Utah and wanted to be an attorney. That was plan A. I wanted to be an attorney.
Yeah.
And Dave, I would meet Dave there, who I don't know why you were working there, actually. Why were you working there?
I just.
Let's get to the point.
Okay.
Why were you
I
there?
was trying to figure out my life really because
So you went to school locally,
Yes.
Highland High School.
yes.
National champion.
I mean, I was on the team, but yeah, I guess.
Come on, this guy.
Dave, you
national
played.
champion.
Why are you saying that?
I mean,
If I say Highland Rugby, like that,
I mean,
people
I was
know.
around those guys. They were really cool guys.
What was the movie?
Forever Strong.
Forever Strong. That's you.
Well, I think it was some other dudes, but I know them.
But you were there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet it was more than that. Anyway, so you had this great high school athletic career, rugby, football,
Yeah,
other stuff.
I had a great high school.
Wrestling.
I loved high school. It was so fun. I served an LDS mission in Thailand. I went to a year of college, just kind of get my generals done. And I was really kind of like coming back. I was feeling good because I was kind of dialed in. There was a bunch of like high achievers when I was on my mission, and they were like, let's go. And so I was kind of like excited to like get on. And my dad was an attorney, and I kind of wanted to see what that was like. I was like, I'll check it out. And so I
Check out the law firm.
Yeah, check what it's like. And so I went there, and obviously I was just making copies and sending faxes. So
You were working in the copy room.
working in the copy
Just
room.
trying to see if maybe that would be the life you wanted as an
just
attorney. And you wanted to be an attorney, so
Yes.
you were
Yes.
you
So
were more intentional.
I wanted to see what it was like, and maybe get my foot in the door with a firm that I would maybe want to work with eventually. And I got the job because a friend's dad was an attorney there too. So, but I'll never. This is one of my favorite things. So I parked my car one day, and I pull up, and there's this 1982 white Land Cruiser, okay, the boxy kind. And I remember looking at that car and being like, "That's a cool car."
Yeah,
and
it is.
I don't know why. Maybe this is kind of weird, but I peeked in the
car.
yeah, because I just was like,
Because she's like that.
Car?
She's like that, man. Let's just be you, man. You're just
Just be you.
I had
Snoopy.
to take a peek, but there was a rugby ball in the front seat
That you recognized.
that
you
I
knew.
recognized, and there was a beautiful watercolor painting in the back seat. And I was like, who is this Renaissance man? The hottest man ever must drive this car. I was like, this guy is who is this human? And I'm 19, so, I'm looking.
You're on the market.
I'm on the market.
On the market. Yeah.
On the market.
Yeah.
Way too much on the market. And anyway, and then I walk in, and there's this new guy who's like doing copies, and I only see the back of him. He's wearing these like he's got a navy corduroy shirt, these like khaki pants, and a little braided leather belt. And I'm like, this guy looks kind of, who is this guy?
Oh,
and
man.
then he
The
turns
braided
around,
leather belt. Yes.
brightest blue eyes I've ever seen.
That's true.
So
I agree.
handsome, black eye. And I was like, oh, who's this guy?
Like he had an injured eye.
Yeah,
So
a black eye.
My choice of what I wore was really
Professional.
no. It was like you're saying it was pretty bad.
It just
Yeah, is that what you're saying?
It looked. I don't know.
man.
It just
Hey,
looked like you were trying really hard.
We all had that outfit, especially the
maybe
braided
so.
belt.
The
Why
braided
did we do
belt.
the
Oh,
braided
I
belt?
loved it. Did you? Hey, anywhere, any size, it's right there. You could always you can move it like one braid. It's like dialed in.
So anyway, we have a great day at work that day. I'm like, oh, this guy's great, having fun.
You got to know each other.
Yeah, we
Okay.
walked to our cars.
And I would say this
Guess
is
whose car it was? Dave's car.
But I have a question about that. Well, I have several questions about that. One is, How much snooping were you doing to notice that he had a watercolor
Yeah,
in
like,
the
do you
It was
back
a big
seat?
car.
Do you
big
guys do that all the
windows.
time? Are
Big
you doing that
windows.
to other cars?
That's not like just peeking in, like, oh, it's nice leather
Yeah.
interior.
No.
Like, are you
That's
still doing that to
there's
this
a
day to other
rugby,
people?
If you
there's
guys
an
know
empty-
that car,
There's an
it's
empty bag
almost
from
all windows.
Wendy's.
Windows.
There's-
It is. There
windows.
is there is a lot of windows.
There's
Do
a
you
lot of
remember that?
windows.
Do you remember what the painting was? Or just a watercolor?
No, I do. It was your Thailand boat.
Okay, so this is when I was like 10, I had this friend, and all we did was draw. Like all he wanted to do was draw. So I go to his house. We just draw all day. In his school, we just draw. Like that was just, like, but I was into it too, you know. So like, but he was really good, and so just draw. Like from like 8 to 11, that's all we did, just draw. And in high school, you know, I kind of got like into other stuff. But in college, I took one art class, and it was just like some foundation, you know, basic art. But I killed it, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you put your things up there, and I'd spend like 5 hours, and I wouldn't even realize it, you know? Is this like kind of one of those things where I'm like, this isn't practical? Like, I'm always trying to get back to like, maybe I should. But at the same time, it was like just something that like, I just like loved, you know?
I love where this is going. I know the story, but I love all of this context because now I can see how it all aligned. That's what I would say about you, is you finally found alignment. Because you were like, I love art. Like all of a sudden you felt like this is my space, but you were like, I better go work in the copy room at a law office.
Yeah. And honestly, in Dave's background, so his family, they're all these amazing musicians. His grandparents went to Juilliard. His
Really?
grandpa was the symphony director at BYU for years. His mom, they're all have doctorates in music. They're all just insane musicians. Mm-hmm. And I think Dave, it's, you know, as years have gone past, you can see that those are all artistic geniuses, but in music. And I think Dave has that artistic genius, but with, you know, art.
Found it in another way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm kind of a hack, but at the same time, I'm all right. And so, but I do feel like there is, like, just having that background of seeing those guys, like, achieve their, you know, actually make it and, like,
Their craft.
Yeah. It was cool to see, because they were, like, perfectionists, you know, and, like, it is important, especially in art, whatever you're doing is just, you know, to execute, like, you know, to whatever that level is, but there is a level that you have to achieve to really execute. Mm-hmm. And they were good at that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I want to get back to the copy room.
Yeah.
And what happened in that time.
Yeah, well, we just became best friends. We had so much fun. Like,
and we
when
were
I think
friends
about
for
that,
like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like we just worked together. Mm-hmm. And it was cool. You know, and I don't know if you've ever been in a place where you just, like, what Liz keeps it light, you know, but she's like a hard worker. But just, you know, you go to a place and it's like, it's kind of like you're kind of almost like looking forward to it, because you have, if you're ever in at a workplace like that, where you're just like, it's like, we're going to work, but like, we're going to have fun. And like, we're going to get a lot of stuff done. And it was fun. Like, they brought in a new office manager, and his whole thing was to outsource the copy room. Like, that's why he came. Like, that was his plan. Like, hey, I'm coming in here. I'm going to outsource you guys. But not to us, but like these kids, we're going to get some. So like, Liz and I, that was the first time, but like, we're pretty tight. Like we'd stay late. Like, they'd have a brief, and this is when you had to go to the airport to FedEx stuff.
Yeah.
So we're like driving out to the airport. They have a brief. We're waiting till 7:00 at night. You know, Liz and I were
Counting,
like
looking
we're like
at
going
the
through the
papers to make
you know,
sure not a
and so
single
we were
page
kind of
is
like,
missed.
we got kind of tight with some of the attorneys, and especially the secretaries. Mm-hmm. So then this person came in, and he's like an adult, you know, and we're like, man, this guy's coming after us. We're like,
We're gonna be the best
politicking the
copy room in
secretaries.
America.
You know what I mean?
I love it.
Yeah. But
So-
we did, guess what? We won. They didn't outsource it.
They couldn't.
We won.
They couldn't outsource
No,
it
they
because
couldn't
you
outsource
were
it.
so good.
They
a
decided
great
not
job.
to, but
Yeah.
I don't know, but at the same time, like, there was a group of like 6 or 7 people that just got super tight.
Who we're
And-
still really good friends with. To
Yeah,
this day.
Really.
And Liz is like, hey, like, come down to Guatemala. Come check out Guatemala. So like, she invited everybody, and half
Okay,
the
but
people
why
there.
did I do that?
Wait, you invited the copy room?
Yeah, the
or
copy
you
room. But
Invited,
this
Like,
is-
come down,
Dave.
get your ticket. We'll take care of you when you get down there.
Okay, but
and
this is the
so your parents
context.
are still in
My parents are
Guatemala. They're
in
still
Guatemala.
running the
Yes.
factory.
And I was madly in love with Dave. And I knew
How-
the only way I could get him to fall in love with me is if he came to Guatemala.
He wasn't already? You weren't already?
No, we
it
were
was
just
one-sided?
friends. It was very platonic, and I'll tell you how I found out. We really were just friends. I mean, in my wildest imagination, I really couldn't even pretend that we were dating. We had never gone on a date. But we hung out as friends, but very platonic.
The runs to FedEx where
Yes.
you didn't
Like
kiss
in
her?
the office.
There was nothing.
We
There
work
was
together.
nothing.
I mean, that's it.
You're the typical guy.
Yes.
All the signs, and you're
Yes,
like,
no, but I
you
was.
want to go get some French fries?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
And I was like in love with, like, our fingers would brush, and I'm like, oh, maybe I was like pushing the fax button. I'm like, oh, maybe he likes me. But so my plan was, I was like, I'm going to invite everybody to Guatemala because my dad would bring friends, and he has like this little tour that he does all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, we're going to invite everybody
It's the
down.
coolest tour, by
We'll
the way.
get Dave. Dave's going to fall in love with me. This is the plan. And so Cameron, he can go. Jared can go. All of these people who are in the copy room, they're like, done. The only person who hasn't said they're going yet is Dave Finley. And I'm like,
Oh my
this isn't working out. And so we're at lunch one day. I'm like, so Dave, when are you going to get your ticket? You know, and he's like, I really want to go. I just don't know if my girlfriend's going to be okay with it. And I was just like, you're what?
You have a
You have a girlfriend? That's how platonic it was. Like, to him, we were literally
Yeah.
just friends.
Like best friends.
Best friends.
But you never told her about your girlfriend?
Never told me about his girl. Exactly. This might have to get cut out, to be honest. You might not be able to include this.
I
Jared.
feel like I feel like there were probably
You didn't
times
know.
I told her that I had
Maybe-
a girlfriend.
maybe I didn't
I
do
think I think I might have.
Maybe.
I think I might have said it a few times. I don't know. We have to go
No,
back.
you never said it, Dave.
We have to look at our life. If we could go
Okay,
take a video
one day
back,
we're
we
gonna go
should
back.
see.
We'll see if you ever mentioned that. But meanwhile, the people at the copy room would look at Dave, and we'd be having lunch together, and I'd be like, "Will you pass me the French fries?" And they'd look at Dave and then be like, "You know, she's in love with you, right?" Like they were.
Everybody knew.
Everyone knew I was in love with him. Anyway, Dave breaks up with his girlfriend, goes on
Finally.
the trip. Finally.
Finally.
And yeah, he kisses me on the trip.
Oh, so it worked.
It worked.
Your plan, your
Taylor
master
Swift,
plan.
Mastermind. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
I was the original.
I hate to admit it.
Yeah.
But
We all know that song.
Yikes.
There were chess pieces, and everything worked out.
You're the chess master.
I was a chess master.
Is that would that still describe your relationship today? You're the chess master? And Dave's
All I know is there was a lot.
More
There was
like,
there was a
he
power
lets me
shift.
think I
There was
am.
like, hey Liz, you want to stay late? You want to help me? Like, can you stay for a couple more hours? And Liz would be like, yeah, let's do this. Liz, now it's kind of the other way around.
You're
It's
giving
kind
all
of the other way
It
around.
is. It's switch. But you're kind of giving
There's
the
part of
signs
it.
like, do you want to stay late?
I thought
You-
so.
You wouldn't be like,
She's
hey,
a
I
good
gotta
worker,
go take
okay?
my girlfriend on a date.
She count things. She was great with numbers.
This is
and-
very telling.
It is telling.
This is very telling.
But so coming back to Albion, because it's my job is to make sure that we don't start talking about football again, because I know that that's where the conversation
It's
is
gonna
going
head
next.
there. I can already feel it.
Is we would hang out in that Albion Basin. So we would always go hiking there. We'd always go biking
While you're
there.
working in the copy room.
on.
I would say
after-
this is after the.
Oh,
trip.
after
This is
Guatemala.
after
Oh,
Guatemala.
okay.
That next summer.
But
I wanna-
That's where we'd hang out.
I want to ask you about the copy room because
Yeah.
I know the story a little bit. And what I took from that story, I want you to talk about this, is the importance of enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're just working in a copy room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not like necessarily a
No.
career path, but you found great joy in that.
I love it. And I would say it is like, it was such a good thing for me to find a place where, yeah, we're working and we're doing stuff, but we're keeping it light and we have people that we're looking forward to like being with. And I love just going anywhere, whether you're like, it's a drive-through and somebody is just like vibing and they're like, you're just like, dude, that person like in that moment, whatever it is, or
Yeah.
wherever you're at, you're just like, I love when people, it just feels like they're cool with what they're doing at that moment. And I feel like that's what we found is like, we found that like we can work hard and do things, but at the same time, just like keep it not too intense, and just keep it fun and like,
And still be productive.
Yes.
And
We
did,
were
did you have the
so-
same?
Yeah, for me, it was the first time I'd never done sports like on a team,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved feeling like I was a part of a team. I loved it. I loved feeling like I could count on people, specifically Dave and the other people in the copy room. I knew at the end of the day we would get the job done and do it well, and I loved that. Was very gratifying for me, and I feel like that definitely has informed the type of people that we hire. Is we want them to be people that we know that will get along with, people that will rise to the occasion,
Yeah.
you know?
I love it. I think it's such a valuable lesson.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you guys have recognized that as you look back across your career and across your life, that the importance of being content, having fun,
Yeah.
enjoying where you are. You can't always control the circumstances, but you can control your attitude
100%.
about it and your effort.
And your effort.
Yeah.
And I think we both love doing a good job.
Yeah.
There's so much satisfaction in that. And I
Yeah.
think once you get a taste of how that feels to just do something really great with people that you care about, it's so intoxicating. You just want to do that more and more. you know?
Yeah, I feel
absolutely.
like that's the biggest motivator of what we have now, and just bring it to the present is just creating these whatever it is, whatever we're doing these like collaborations or something, and it is a lot of like work, and there's all these people coming together, and just to see how we can make it and how it all comes together, it's like amazing, and it's just so fun to be a part of that whole. That's so much better than like the little parts of it,
I want to talk about that more as we get closer to the end of this, but we still have a lot to go through. But the importance of not just enjoying what you're doing, but like you said, having the right team and the right people in place. I think that's another lesson that you learned along the way. Okay, so this is we're still plan A. You guys thought you were going to be attorneys. You're working in the copy room.
Yeah.
But something changed and plan A turned into plan B.
Yeah. So plan B was we got married. We dated for 3 years and
Hung out in the Albion Basin.
hung out in the Albion Basin.
Yeah.
And we ended up moving to San Diego. I decided to kind of switch what I wanted to do for my career, and I landed on being an English professor. And I'd gotten my master's at the U, and then Dave graduated with his
So I went in
his
and
graphic design program.
all in on art, and I graduated the U in the graphic design.
Okay.
program.
Yeah.
So you did end
Yes.
up deciding you followed your passion.
All my passion. I mean, maybe it's a curse too, but it is like so hard to if you just love that, it's so hard to get away from it, especially if you're good at it, because it is so fulfilling. It really is when you can see your stuff, and like to this day, if like one of my print like does well, and where you see somebody like some beautiful person wearing your swimsuit, you're like, wow, like that person like is very fulfilling.
Have you recognized, is this a trait that he's always had, like getting joy out of other people?
100%.
Having joy
He does.
in whatever they
Yes.
do?
But going back to teammate, right? Like I
Yeah.
found the perfect teammate, right? Like someone who's always trying to,
Well,
he's like,
sometimes.
but Dave, you are everyone's cheerleader and like the team captain. And I think that is such a great combination.
It's invaluable. You have to have that.
Yeah.
You have to have that guy.
And it was cool seeing Dave apply into that graphic design program because it was very uncomfortable. I mean, he had to really put himself out there and do
Yeah.
something that he hadn't trained. These people had been doing art their whole lives.
I'm sure.
And Dave had postponed it since he was 11 years old. And all of a sudden he's jumping back into this as a 22-year-old,
Well,
know?
he had to win national
He had
championships
to win national
in rugby.
championships. But
I
but
mean-
Watch people win.
but I got to see him do that whole program. And if your daughter's in it, you know how intensive it is. And so
It is.
And so we got to do that together, just seeing
That's
him. And
amazing.
I got to help with some of the projects. He and his mom and I became really great friends, just helping be his like little artist assistants, with these different projects.
I love it.
But
I'd love it.
Yeah, but Dave got a degree that really taught him how to have a profession, which I think was very different than mine. It was, you have an English degree, so I learned how to write and how to make arguments, but I didn't know how to get a job. And so for me, it was like, okay, then I'll be a professor. And I loved literature and I loved reading. And so
And she was good at it. Like she had a thesis that was really like people were gravitating to. Like the first time I went to England was because Liz was presenting a paper at Oxford, and then she went back east to present it. And like the biggest conferences that were like in her field were asking her to give her papers. So she was killing it. Like she was doing great.
In your PhD program?
Yeah.
And is this based on your thesis, or what was this?
No, the thesis was, the emphasis was 18th century British, but it's very boring. I tried to tie the birth of the novel to the birth of Confession in 1215.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
It was a
But-
novel idea.
That's
in the early 2000s.
Novel
Novel.
idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that could be another podcast.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
When I do my
Yeah.
old English literature podcast, you'll be my first guest.
Wonderful. Yes, I'm sure that people will just be
It'll
waiting for
it'll
that
be
one to come out.
a one podcast
Yeah.
run.
But we moved to San Diego and we loved it. It was
Okay, so
The
you're in
best.
San Diego. You're in school at
UCSD, so UC San Diego.
well,
right on the beach
okay.
in La Jolla.
I know UC San Diego, and I grew up in Southern California,
Oh,
so
okay.
I know
Yeah.
a little bit about it. But I really tie. Wait, is that true? UCSD, University of California, San Diego.
Yes.
Is that where Jim Harbaugh was coaching, or was he at the University
No.
I
of
think
San
it was
Diego?
USD.
Yeah, I think
USD.
that's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
didn't have a football. It was more nerdy.
You
They
didn't
had
have
a surf team.
You didn't have a football program,
But there was no football.
They got a great
program
water
there.
polo team.
Yeah,
there, I
great
think.
water polo.
so it wasn't a real college.
Yeah, it really wasn't. That was well. The thing is, we were choosing between that and Notre Dame, and
I know, and we're like Notre Dame,
know.
and they were so
I
cool.
know. They were so
like,
good to us.
They took me. I'm like the spouse.
South
They-
Bend.
I know.
Yeah, they took me. They
Four
had us
Horsemen.
stay in the hotel.
Yeah.
They had us like walk the stadium. I was
wined
so
and
into
dined
it.
us.
I was like,
I know.
yes,
the Golden Dome.
the
I mean,
Hall of
come on.
Fame. I know.
it was so cool. But then we got
Touchdown
in that.
Jesus.
We went in.
Yes.
We were approaching San Diego, and we just touched down, and we got off the plane, and we're like, okay, San
Done.
Diego.
I know. San Diego, South
It's
Bend.
so nice, man.
I know.
But South Bend, I mean, how can you beat that? It was,
Yeah.
it was
can't.
cool.
Other than the multiple national championships and all of the history and tradition,
I know.
Compared to the great water polo team
know.
at UCSD, you're right. There's no comparison.
But truthfully, that was, I think, at the very beginning, Dave was so kind to say, hey, like, I'm going to follow you for what program you want to go to, right?
Yeah.
Which, how lucky was I to have a husband that was that supportive? But at the
Yes.
same time, they were telling us that I could live in South Bend, Dave could live in Chicago, and we could meet up on the weekends because Dave couldn't. There
weren't
was no
any
graphic
jobs
design jobs for
yeah.
Dave in South Bend,
Right,
and so
yeah.
it was like, this is best for our family. We'll move to San Diego. This is perfect lifestyle. And Dave could start his career. And Dave had already left. Like, we had started a little letterpress business in Salt Lake, and before we had moved. And so anyway, he was producing so many beautiful things, but he really like picked it up and left to where my career was going to take me.
So weren't you ready? I mean, you're done with the graphic design program. You're ready to get out in the world and make
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah.
But you decided that you weren't going to do that. You were going to follow with Liz and her passion and be supportive. And I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is this teamwork philosophy between you two developed early
100%.
on, and it wasn't about one being a star and it was like, how do we make this all work together?
Yeah, and it was that Dave didn't have, like, we really felt confident in his design, and it was, he's going to be able to find a job wherever we go, and that's where he's going to just really start his career. And so I think obviously if that letterpress business had been like thriving, and that would have been the better. It was just so new, don't you think? It didn't feel like something that was going to be.
Well, I think it was good, and I just felt like I could do it down there.
Yeah.
So we kept it going. We bought a letterpress. We had it down like with a gas lamp district, it was like an underground place down there, and so it was cool. Like I think what you're saying is true. It's like teamwork. It's like if you have somebody you partner with, and whenever you're just like, hey, what's the best option now? Like, it was a good time to move, but it was also a great opportunity for Liz. I mean, it's a big deal to get into a program like that, and it was cool, and it was like, she was great at it, and she was excelling at it, and it was a cool thing. It was a special thing, and it was cool to be in San Diego. Like, I loved it. And I got a job down there.
great.
I got a day job that was great, and I
Right in
loved
La
it.
Jolla.
Yeah, I'd go to lunch down there, right?
the shores.
Yeah, that cove down there or whatever. And
Yeah.
it was a great life. Like,
Yeah, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
you were kind of back. I mean, you grew up in California before you.
Yeah,
went to Guatemala.
and it felt like home.
Yeah.
It just felt.
So
home.
based on this portion of the story, you're thriving. You're finding success.
Yeah.
And you're like, you should be a professor now.
Yeah, and that's where Plan C comes in. So
Yeah. So plan
You
B,
know-
you were going to be a professor. You were going to thrive in your
he was
graphic
going to
design
become an
business.
art director one day. And
Yes.
he was an artist, and I was a writer. And
Oh man, that sounds like a movie.
but I don't
Yeah.
think. But it was not entrepreneurial. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like, it was not.
no,
like,
no,
Yeah.
that's a very
Yeah,
there was
very
like
safe.
steps.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
I
Did
was in
you-
a good job that like I could see where if I did well, like I could keep with this company, and it was great.
Yeah, rise through the ranks.
Yes.
What did you want to do ultimately with graphic design? What was your plan at
I just
that
had
point?
really I had small goals, like get a billboard in a big city somewhere. I'm just saying, I was into print advertising, and it was big back then. And some of those things, like the place I was at, they advertised in Vogue. We got a thing in Vogue, got a billboard in like Times Square. That was another one. I don't know. I was just thinking, like, just these kind of like bucket list things where I was just like, I just want to do that. Just
That is so Dave, though. I'm just going to say it. He's not. Dave would never be the person that would be thinking like, I want this title or I want this accolade. Like for him, it's very like physical identifiers of what that represent his art. At the end of the day, it's just like, I want to create art.
Yeah.
And I want to be a great artist. It's not, I want to be an art director or I want to be, it's just like, I want to create great art.
Yeah.
And I think that is, and that's just a great way to define you, Dave, because you care about stuff that really matters, I think, at the end.
Yeah, without necessarily caring about the...
Just being an artist, I do think that's a driver. And when when you create something, I don't know, it's like you guys have created this podcast or what, I don't know. It's pretty cool, right? Just creating something where it evolves and there wasn't something before, and you kind of see that, like, it is such a fulfilling way to live life, I feel like. And anyways, I feel like you guys are great examples of that, of just like, you guys are creators, man.
I think that's a great lesson. Something that I hadn't taken away from other stuff that I've heard you guys do is like the power of creativity and building something and the great satisfaction that you can get from that. So we're headed
So
to...
here we are.
So we were living
Yes.
our best lives. No kids. We lived on the beach with student housing. I mean, it was great. We'd go surfing every
Taco
day.
trucks.
Taco trucks.
It's a life.
And,
It is.
And
We're there for like 3 years.
A lot of people get
Yeah.
stuck in that life.
it's 100%.
It's not bad.
73
I mean,
degrees is great.
I understand it.
You
When
know?
I see
That's what
people,
we always used to say, sunny and 72.
Yeah.
What's the weather day? Sunny and 72.
I know.
that's not bad.
And I think it's kind of going back to the plan A. I wanted to have a career, and in my head I was like, maybe we'll have kids when I'm 30. And it was crazy. Like one day I just woke up and I was like, Dave, like I really think we need to start our family. And it just came out of nowhere. And my dad's a twin. My grandma had 3 sets of twins, and I'd always joked my whole life that we would have twins. All my friends knew we were going to have twins, and so we actually got pregnant right away. And surprise, surprise, it's twins.
Twins.
And it was the craziest thing. I called my mom up at our first appointment to tell her the news, which, by the way, I'd already gained like 24 pounds.
Twins.
I was ordering maternity, like 7 weeks pregnant. It was pretty scary. But I called up my mom and I was like, Mom, you're not going to believe this. Went to her appointment and she said, oh, you're having twins. I had a dream. You're going to have 2 little girls. And it was just, it was wild. And it was just like, oh, like this was meant to be. We were supposed to have these babies. And I remember when I was a little girl, I'd tell my mom, you'll take care of one baby. I'll take care of the other baby. We'll reunite them one day.
I mean,
it's
she
just like
was
a little
adamant
girl.
about this. Like, we had a friend at the same time. UCSD is a big like medical hub, and he was getting in medical school, and so he was down there working. He's really smart, and he's like, "Do you know the odds? Like, I'm gonna bring you some articles." So he like bring Liz like 3 articles. Like,
You have a
here-
1 in
yeah,
7,000
like,
chance of
you're
having twins.
like
Yeah.
maybe just pump the brakes a little bit,
Yeah.
and so like I didn't even know. I thought she might be pregnant, but I was like not quite sure.
I
So
gained
we
24
go.
pounds.
That's
I don't
when we
know why.
go, and that's when they
He
do the
was
first
like,
yeah.
ultrasound.
Not sure.
And like twins, all of a sudden, Liz is on the phone calling that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
like this.
Guess what?
Yeah. But it felt like it was meant to be. And I think that's the main point. And I think the twins are at the center of everything, ultimately. And anyway, so great news. Everyone's so excited.
Yeah.
But then something really hard happened. We found out my mom had stage 4 breast cancer about 8 weeks later. And so, and all of this emotion of just being so excited to start our family and us achieving our goals, we had this tragedy of this unknown, and no hospitals. Like Huntsman told my mom they didn't have a treatment for her. And my mom's sister had just passed away from breast cancer like 4 years before. It was really aggressive. And they told her that the only place that had this experimental drug that she could take was at Scripps at San Diego, which was 5 minutes from where we were living.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so she moved in with us. And my dad's in Guatemala running the business. she moves in with us in student housing. We had a 2-bedroom apartment, and I was put on bed rest, and my sweet mom would drive herself to get her chemo by herself because I couldn't do it. Dave was working. My dad was in Guatemala. And it was such a blessing that it was so close, of all the places.
Yeah.
And,
Just
Notre
right up the
Dame
road,
made so much
right
more
by Torrey
sense.
Pines.
On paper,
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's like 5 minutes away.
Don't worry, I still have Notre Dame in the back of my head.
I know.
Man, Notre Dame.
I know. Tell me about it. I still love it. Notre Dame is how I love to say it. But
Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre
Yes.
Dame. But so she went through her whole treatment, and we would spend days just in bed where she was crying, and I'd be crying.
And I mean, that treatment, it turns out, is like the outcomes now are way better. And I think it started from that treatment. So like her prognosis or whatever, it was like not very good.
It was not good.
No.
Stage 4.
Yeah,
Stage 4,
it was bad.
20% chance to live.
But after this drugs come out, like it's
everybody puts them on. I can't remember the name of it.
But it's like way better odds of living. And it just so happened that like she got on that test.
Yeah.
And
Right where you guys were.
Right where we were.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know. So we're wrestling through all of that. I'm trying to finish up my PhD and get my dissertation ready. And then my dad comes to visit, and things are starting to change a little bit in Guatemala. And you can tell we didn't know how long we'd have my mom for. It was unsettling. We knew the twins were coming. Mm-hmm. And Dave had his career that was really starting to take off. Mm-hmm. And my dad needed help
At the factory.
Well, things started changing in Guatemala, and that, like around 2000.
Changing in which way?
Around 2006, or around that time, they used to have quotas on China on how much apparel they could bring into the U.S.
So China was limited.
Yes.
They were limited
on what they could produce for the U.S.
Yes.
Okay.
And so they kind of took off the quotas around that time, and it really affected Central America. Like it was at the beginnings of this but Brent was just like, hey, come down.
Brent
like,
is your dad.
Yeah. Like, come down. We'll help you. You got the twins. We can help take care of the twins. You can come work for me. Like, there's a lot of upside here, and I need the help. Like, things were changing. He just opened up. They just got him to open up the company that was working with him. They're like, hey, you got to open up a factory in Nicaragua, which was a huge burden because it's like totally different country. He's spending a lot of resources down there. He's opening it up. Like, there's a lot of things going on.
So he was starting to open up a company or a factory in Nicaragua.
Yes.
Yeah. So the company had grown. I mean, they were at that point, they probably had 1,200 or 13 or 1,400 operators. It was a pretty established business.
And I know when you say operators, you're talking about people
Sewers.
on the sewing machines.
Sewers. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were just still doing cut and sew. So businesses would send the fabric, our factories would cut, sew, ship it back. So just charging for our labor at this point.
Yeah, they'd send in all the fabric in bundles.
Oh,
Yeah.
so they would send the fabric.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so anyway, and growing up, I just did not want to work in the apparel business, really and truly. I saw how hard it was. And we had a great life. I mean, we traveled the world. We had all these amazing experiences when things were good. When things were bad, they were bad. And I saw business, that up and down. And I saw how hard it was on my parents and on their marriage to work with each other. And it just consumed them. It was factory talk. Morning, afternoon, night. The first thing we do, we open up the newspaper, we see what the exchange rate is for the dollar, and so anyway, so that just was my whole life. And I didn't love the idea about it, but I think Dave at his core wants to help people, and he knew that my family needed help. And I think we thought that eventually things would
we
get
thought it was
better.
a good opportunity, and there was a
know?
lot of upside there. But it was, you could feel it, like it was changing, like the apparel industry was changing.
Did you think there was opportunity to go down there and take over the factory eventually?
I think eventually.
Or did you
I don't
think
know. I don't know about
Eventually.
takeover. I thought we could help. I think
help
we
out
could
temporarily and then go back to a different sort of...
like because things were up into the air. Like Liz, I will say UCSD took care of us. We had student housing. Liz had really good health care, but Liz was kind of going on her way. I think it was hard for them when Liz got pregnant, for her to kind of like continue what she was doing. I don't know. In their eyes, I think it was pretty tough, but they took care of us really well. So, but on one hand, we're like, Liz can finish remotely. She can get, she'll be a professor. She can kind of keep going down that route. This is a good opportunity for me. It might not be like my passion, but at the same time, like, there is an upside to that where you can carve out a good life
running
the factory.
But but at that point, you didn't have any opportunity to really design. All that stuff was all coming in. You were just cutting and sewing and sending it back. Okay.
Just learning the
So
business.
he was
basically.
100% putting his passion
on the side. Okay,
the side.
that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so
So we have 2 6-month-old babies.
so babies are born 6 months old,
Yeah.
and you decide to.
We're moving down. So we moved down to Guatemala, and really and truly within about 3 months of us going down there, like all hell broke loose, and tons of work. These contracts that we'd had for 20 years were canceled. And
Yeah, like the people that opened up the factory that really pressured them, it turns out like they did bras. Somehow they're like duty free. Like
it's just for trade agreements.
like somehow they figured out that in Asia you can get them I don't know. It was a lot of, and so they decided like they're just going to shut down that factory. Like they're not going to give any more work to that factory. So he's like scrambling to find work.
And
for
you
that
have
factory.
to think, we worked with probably the same 3 companies for 20 years. And there were always maybe 1 or 2 that came in and out. But it was 90% of the work that our
Constant.
factories had were the same styles being produced for 15, 20 years.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And yeah,
So it was a big deal to all of a sudden lose all these contracts because who are we going to work with?
Yeah,
and all the work is moving to Asia.
and not just in our factory, like every factory,
Hundreds of thousands
Like there's
of people lost
there used to
their
be a big,
jobs.
huge denim factory in Guatemala, and
Like a city.
It was like a
Levi's.
city, yeah. And they just moved, and within like 6
Did they
months,
take that to Asia as well?
Yeah, they took it to Asia. Within 6 months, 80% of all the factories were closed.
So
like
you
it
had,
was crazy.
You had unemployment rates were skyrocketing, burglary, theft, murder.
Oh,
Violence was going through the roof.
People are out of work, and
Yes.
now how do they like?
Exactly. No, it was
It
Like,
creates all of these other issues.
Yes.
I would say like somebody should do a thesis on like people moving away from Guatemala at that time. Like,
Yeah,
might
I
have-
wonder what the exodus
Yeah,
was like.
I definitely think there would be like a correlation there because it was so hard.
But a lot of people were being deported too. And so you'd have planes coming back. This was like in 2007, 2008. And so they were shipping a lot of people back to Guatemala. And so it was chaos. And, we're scuffling, trying to find work. We're not used to finding work. Usually work just came to us.
Yeah.
And we were producing really high quality products. And so only thing available, t-shirts, polo shirts, t-shirts. And that was not.
And that's what I was
what we
trying
would
to
do.
find. That's what I was trying to help Brent with. This is like try and find people. But it was like in this industry, you're 2 cents off like a quote. And they're like, we're taking somebody else. And we're like $1 off, like of Asia. Like it's a lot more expensive to sew there. So it was so hard and we failed a lot.
And at this point, Dave and I are trying to really help my parents. And it starts in 2008. Obviously, the economy has crashed in the U.S. and businesses aren't wanting to send work, especially work that is like expensive.
High end.
Yeah, and so all you're doing is T-shirts, and we could barely find work. My parents are having to let go of people week by week, which was really difficult for them because, really and truly, they were pillars in the community for taking care of their workers. And so my
And
parents
they
are
built
selling
these
cars.
relationships.
They're selling houses. They're emptying their retirement.
all of their individual possessions.
Yes, all of their individual possessions. Dave and I are writing checks, Discover card checks, that you would get in the mail to help transfer things. We're writing checks for like $10,000 to help cover payroll. We don't have anything. All of our savings are gone. All of my parents' savings are gone. We're asking family for money. We're selling machines. But things are getting so bad at a really low point. My parents went to a warehouse that was supposed to have like 1,000 machines in it because we rotated things. And they went and they opened it emptied. Someone had stolen all of the machines. And people were scared they weren't going to get their severance. And so people were just doing drastic measures to try to take care of themselves. And it just went from bad to worse to worse. And I remember vividly, I run a lot, and I remember having the babies in my running jogger and running up this hill and just listening to this Jack Johnson song over and over again about let this train break down. It's this song's like,
it's a
please
great
let
song.
this train break down. And I just remember thinking, we are so trapped. We're trapped. Like, what are we supposed to do? It would feel so wrong for us to get on a plane, go back to Salt Lake and start over, leave my parents, leave all these people that I'd known since I was 9 years old. And my parents had these people working with them for 20 years, 25 years, and just say, it sucks for you. I'm an American. And
I
we
have
can
a better.
start.
Well, the truth
We
is,
can start over, and we'll be okay.
the truth is, outside of Guatemala, both of you had much better opportunity
Yes.
available to you.
Yes.
Why did you decide not to take that opportunity?
We were in it. Like,
I think it kind of goes back to we loved the people, we loved my family, and I think Dave and I really are ultimately eternal optimists, and I think that we both know that if we go all in and do our best, that things are going to be okay, and we had the team of people to support us, and that we wanted to show up for them. We knew that those people would never
and
give up on us.
it's not like, it's not like we were just like, people were just like, we're out of here. It's like, they were like, hey, we're going to get this done. Like, we're like, you need this cut. Like, we're going to stay late. We'll like,
These are the operators.
Yeah, and
these
we
are
were there-
everybody at the factory. Like, it was like, everybody's like, we're gonna do this. And it was like,
And we were their
how
only
could you
hope,
leave? How could you leave that? Like that,
Yeah.
you know, when you were like, and another thing is it's different too. Like, it's different down there. How, like, there's like 5 people that depend on.
Oh, we'd have a husband and a wife working with us. We'd have the mother-in-law working with us, And really, we were a family business. From top to bottom, it was a family business. And it was my parents' legacy, and just to see that dissipate, it just felt unfair. And it just felt like we couldn't abandon them. Like we were in it with them. And that's not to say that thought didn't cross our mind. It crossed my mind all the time. And it really, the factory just kept getting whittled down eventually to the point where we opened another factory with just like 20 sewers and operators just in case we ended up losing it all. And Dave at this point, the plan C was work for my parents' factory, try to build that business. And then eventually Dave starts, trying to find other work, which ends up being called full package, which is...
Well, we couldn't find work that was just cut and sew anymore. Nobody was doing that anymore. Nobody was sending stuff down to have it like just sewn. They're just like, we just want the end product. If you can give us
there's
the
too
end
much
product,
liability
Yeah.
that way. They have to buy the fabric. Think of the cash flow. They'd have to buy the
yeah,
fabric.
they didn't want to. They didn't want to have the liability anymore. And Asia would do it all full package. Like, you just buy the end product.
Okay, so were companies sending the design to Asia, and then Asia would source the
Yeah.
material and
Yes.
This is a shirt I want. Make it happen.
Okay, so you came up with this concept.
Well,
for
it's like they're asking us, "Can you do full
gotcha.
package?
Okay.
Can you do full package?" And we're like, "No,"
Yeah.
And so finally, it's like, we're losing. We gotta try. So we were like, "Hey," and it was going back to those like those Discover checks. They used to be just sending those out, and we were young, but like they still would give us like $100,000 or like $200,000 and those checks. So we're like, I mean, we're at the point where we're just like, okay, we could probably finance this. It's so hard because like spend $200,000 to make like 10, 20 grand.
$10,000.
You know what I mean? Like, and if everything goes well, and if there's no mistakes, and if the fabric's good, and the trims are good,
And the logo is exactly where it needs
it's a quarter,
to be.
it's a quarter inch within tolerance. All these things have to be like perfect to make a little bit of money.
But that's what we started doing. So we took the leap of faith and we started offering full package. And some of these companies, first they would send us the designs, but eventually we had to start.
Yeah,
the
at first
design
they were cool.
process
Like
for
it
them
was
too.
good. It was kind of, at first they'd be like, here's the fabric mill. You just have to go to them, buy the stuff.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
but then
But
the
then
next
they were
time it's like, hey,
this is what we want.
well,
Yeah.
you need a pattern maker. We don't want to make the patterns. You make the patterns. So then it's like, okay, we'll get a pattern maker. And then we kind of learn that part. And then it's like, okay, we just kind of like, they just kind of whittled down to the point where, yeah, like Liz is saying, like, send us like 5 designs and we'll pick 2 and then make us that.
Okay, so
But-
this is called
full package.
Full package.
But we were making $1 a unit versus 3 cents. So the upside was huge. The risk was huge.
Okay, before we continue down the full package pathway,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I want to ask you about because you're married, you have twins, your mom has cancer.
She's in remission at this
She's
point.
in remission.
Yeah.
Okay. This has to be enormously stressful. I mean, are we talking like sleepless nights?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or like
This
Just
is the
like-
thing.
I'm just trying to understand, like this concept of overcoming obstacles.
Yeah, it was
you guys
literally
are right in the
finding
middle of
joy
it.
in the littlest things. And
Like, okay, tell
the
me about
twins,
that.
and that's why I just feel like everything comes back to the twins, as cheesy as that sounds. But those babies
Mm-hmm.
saved us. And truly, when my mom was going through her chemo and her radiation, she would take care of one baby for me at night, and I would take care of the other baby.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I really felt like I had been being kind of prepared for this since I was a little girl. Like this, you're gonna have these babies and your mom's going to help you. And this is, and we had no money, we had nothing, but we could go to the zoo with the twins.
Yeah,
and spend
and Liz's
$4,
parents were
you know?
great examples because they've been through these cycles, right? Mm-hmm. And they'd have some really hard times. And there's a bunch of times I just remember hanging out with like Liz's dad. It was bad, but he's just like, okay, let's just go to lunch real quick, and we just take a break, like have a good just like a sandwich somewhere, and just doing that for like half an hour, and he just make it like light again, like just make a joke about it. It's like, oh, shit, like this is crazy or something like that. But like just kind of resetting us and just taking all that pressure away. He is so good at that, and he's so good at doing that when there's like something really bad happened. I think
on a weekend we'd go up to this place called Antigua, which is like our favorite place growing up, and it's a 40-minute drive, but it's this beautiful little colonial Spanish town.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day we'd be able to stay at the nicest hotel and go to town on the weekends, but this time we would just go up and we'd sit and we'd have a lemonade and we'd listen to the marimba band play music, and we still have some of those pictures of the twins.
And so as you're in the midst of this, I mean,
Oh, it was
the
so
trial
bad.
of your lives,
It was so bad.
finding a little bit of
It was
joy,
we
a
just
little
needed
bit
a
of
little
happiness.
hope, a little bit of glimmer.
That's what I wanted to add. Was that the hope? Was that the light that you needed to keep going daily?
There was enough
because
goodness that we could find during the day that truthfully, maybe today when so much is good, you would maybe just look past it. You wouldn't even notice it, But it was like when so many things are going wrong, you just need one little thing that I think that you could hold on to.
And I do think, how they say like, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you need like a partner. Like some people we won't invest unless there's a partner or something like that. And I do think there's something to like, and it was like Brent, Lucy, and us, but there were a lot of Brent and us just talking, and for better or for worse, just being like, okay, well, I think we can make this happen. Like one of us was like, two of us would be just like, oh, this is like we're done, and then one of us would be like, dude, but like, what if we did it? And like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and
I know
like,
exactly
let's
what
pencil
you're
this
saying.
out, and like, let's figure it out. And Brent was always good at like making a big plan. It's like, yeah, okay. And I don't know if it was, I don't know how good that was, and maybe sometimes that's like the worst idea because you can really talk yourselves into some crazy stuff. But it kept us going.
The perfect example of this is like we hit an absolute low point where one morning it was 6:30 in the morning. Dave and I taught an early morning seminary class K, which meant that we had 7 15-year-olds come to our house
in the midst of all this.
Wow. Monday through Friday, we're teaching this class.
And they're hardcore, man. These kids were like on it. Like I was like, "Are you sure you're waking up?" Like just knocking on the door. Let's go. We're like, okay, all right. Well, 1 second.
And yet we're still really close with these kids. They were like our best friends.
Yeah, they're cool.
You
They're
know,
cool.
they were our best friends. But we've got these little twins in their footsie pajamas sitting down. We're probably in our pajamas too, just like trying to like read a scripture. And we get a phone call, and it's this guy Margarito, who I've known since I was 9 years old. He's our cutter. He cuts the fabric, and he said, maybe it was 7 a.m. at this point. But anyway, he's like, hey, the factory's been broken into, and it's all gone. It's all gone. And I remember just looking at Dave and like feeling almost like in a catatonic state, like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We hang up the phone. Our cute seminary kids just see us just like dissolving in front of them, and they just, can we say a prayer for you? It was very humbling. And we get dressed, we go to the factory, and every single machine was gone. It was an inside job. Someone had drugged the guard and broken down the door, come in and stolen all our machines. And we had an order there that we had to ship the next day. which we had already factored. I think we were already out like $150,000. Like we needed that order to ship to get money for the next order. Like the money was spent.
Yeah.
And
you have all the material.
we have all the material. We have
Okay, so
We look and we see, we're like it was like whoever did it knew exactly what machines they wanted. And they didn't even take the tables. They just like unscrewed them. It was like,
machine
it was a
heads.
professional
Yeah.
job, man.
It
They
was
like
crazy.
unscrewed the machine heads, just took all the heads and then left.
But the
they didn't-
boxes of unfinished
But there was
goods
like all
were
these
there.
unfinished goods and we're like, oh. And we're like, on a, like Liz is saying like that Jack Johnson song. It was almost like, okay, that's it.
But we
Like-
needed one more
like,
day of
you know,
production, and we didn't have machines to sew it.
yeah.
So it was all for naught.
Yeah,
right?
but at least they were there. So we're like, okay, well, maybe we could just like, because you can't, if it's like under a certain amount, people don't want it. You know, you have to ship a full shipment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm done. I'm like, I literally looked at Dave and I'm like, I think we gotta go. We tried our best. Like we
Yeah.
have to
There's
go
nothing-
home. Like what can we do? It's all gone.
Right.
We're gonna go file bankruptcy. We have no money. My parents have lost everything. We were gonna let these guys down. There's only 20 of us left at this point. 20 sewers out of 1,500.
Yeah. And
Okay?
is Margarita one of those?
Margarita was one of them. Yeah.
Okay.
We kept the head of quality. We had the head of production. We kept the head
Like
just
all
in
these,
case.
the
Yeah.
best
We
of
would
the
grow
best.
one day.
Because it's not like there's there's nowhere to go. All the
Yeah.
factories are closed. Like we're just like, okay, we're just buy some time. We'll
Yeah.
get you guys
we just
back.
kept on trying to buy time. That's
Yeah.
such a good word. We were trying to buy time. And anyway,
And
so,
Brent's like,
Yeah.
we're like, oh man, I don't know.
I don't think,
Brent's like, what?
I don't think you were, Dave.
I don't know. I don't know what I was like, but all I know is Brent was like, hey, we got this. And we're just like,
Wait, all the machines are gone. You have to get this order out.
Yeah.
You have the material, and Brent's like, I love Brent.
Brent and Dave.
Yeah,
And
you know,
Dave. This
I
is
don't
the
know.
thing.
I'll
Dave
bet
was
that's
in on
true.
it. The two of them.
I'll bet
I'm
that's
just saying,
true.
but Brent was like, no,
We got
He's
this.
like, I'll make a few phone calls, and it was cool. You know, like it was like a movie moment where it's like It's a Wonderful Life, you know, and all those people like pitch in at the
Wait,
end.
what do you mean he's going to make a few phone calls? What
He's
does
like,
that mean?
So he calls up some of his friends that are other sewers, and like within hours, these trucks come up and all these machines come in.
What?
Yeah.
And they just let us use them for free as long as we needed.
It was cool.
What?
And so we got the order out. But it was like so crazy. It was crazy. It was like a movie, man. It was like that
So trucks show up
yeah. It was
with machines. You have your 20 or so operators. Did
Yeah.
you need any more, or could you produce
that's
it
all
on
we
the?
had.
that's
The
all we
orders were
needed.
so small at that point.
Yeah.
Got
it was
you.
just like
So
But it was
small.
You went
cool.
to work and you got that.
And it was cool. Like the group,
Yeah.
that's the group.
Okay.
There's a group of people in Guatemala that are like that. Like it's a tight knit group, and even like the people who are like competitors, they're all like pretty cool and like pretty like supportive of each other.
And-
So it was,
yeah,
but it's because Brent like the past.
Yeah.
It's all that like trust he'd built up over those years and all those friendships and just how he treated everybody else.
Yeah.
That's how those
And his status in the community,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the status that he had built over that time of
Yeah.
being a really decent person
No
in the
one wanted
community.
to see my dad fail.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It represented so much more.
Yeah,
You know, it
Yeah.
wasn't just any other factory.
Yeah.
It was like Brent Holmes. You know, we got to help him out.
I have a couple questions about that I think are really interesting. So you mentioned that you had like the best of the best, like in terms of your operators,
Yeah.
that you wanted to keep a lot of people, you kept as many as you could, and you kept the most skilled. How meaningful is that to have people around you and surround yourself with people who are really talented and skillful?
Well,
Like could you have done that
No.
job without?
no, and there's a lot of like people who are like push us like marketing, like, hey, you should market your factory like you're helping these people, you know, like you're giving
Look
back.
at all
to-
the good you're
Yeah,
doing
look
in
at all the good you're doing,
Guatemala.
dude. Look at all the good they're doing. Look at all the expertise.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
they're good, and it's hard work. It's not easy, and it's you're doing the same thing, and like
And not
we're
just-
grateful,
yeah.
man. You know.
We had to completely change the business model. Usually in large factories, you have people who sew on their single needle machines, people who sew on their cover stitch, people who sew on the flat seamers, very specialized. But what we needed to do is we needed to have operators that were trained on multiple machines, which is no one does this. Usually you'll have a line of 50 people to sew a polo.
And one person's doing like
everyone's doing their own individual jobs.
the hem, and they're like
Just
amazing at
so
it.
knocking
efficient.
it out.
They can do 200 in a minute, right? But we had to completely come up with a new business model, which was, okay, they're going to take 50. We're going to do this with 7 people. And each person is going to do 4 or 5 different operations. And so they had to hop from machine to machine.
Yeah.
So you had to have super skilled artisans to be able to do this. And also, obviously, the people who are planning the production lines and the engineers that can figure out the lines in a way to allow this to happen. So really sophisticated team, as small as we were. I mean, hands down, some of the best people in the world, really and truly.
But it was like,
you know,
it felt like if you've been on a good team, you know, when you just know we're doing some good stuff. I don't know. And
You
even
can't
when
describe
you can't. And it was like that with just little, there was like one, I swear, and I may be just making this up because it sounds good, but there was one operator who was like, let's go. Like, I just remember we're down there and like
Olga.
all the best people would, like when we were in a big factory, we'd bring clients in. And the ones like the old timers from like Alabama or something that had these huge sewing factories, they'd always gravitate over to her.
Is that right?
And they just watch her because she, you know what I mean? They're like, oh yeah, like they know talent.
She was so good.
Yes, and it was like she's just like, okay, let's go, you know, and just like everybody's like, all right, let's do this, and like we're like, man, we don't know if this is gonna work. Like we had no idea, but like this is such a good team. Or like they're just vibing together. It was special.
So special. And we knew, I mean, that moment, I think, always makes us very emotional whenever we think about that, you know, making those phone calls and just the exasperation of like, okay, what are we going to do? But, you know, last year, I think we got a lot of these people still work with us. And I don't know how that conversation came up again, but everybody went back to that moment in our heads.
Oh.
And it's really powerful when something means a lot to you and you don't really know if other people, if it resonates with them, but that is a seminal moment for each one of those people in their lives that we didn't give up that day.
Yeah.
And it was really beautiful to be able to just kind of come back and talk about
Well,
that.
how meaningful for everybody to go through that experience. And like you said, as a team, you probably couldn't have done it individually.
No.
Like, there's
No
no, there's
No
no
way.
way. The power of a team is
No way. And that's why, you know, Plan D was within that week, it was, we can't count on other people, other businesses anymore. Like, we don't know if a contract is going to come next week, and we're just living contract to contract, and they're going to change prices on us, or they're going to reject an order because sales are low, and they're going to find an excuse to cancel it. So Dave had the idea, we're going to start our own clothing line. And that's, we're going to only depend on ourselves and not depend on other people ever again.
So you went from the full package model to we're going to own it.
Yeah.
And we're going to own our own
Brand.
Well, and
that's
also
that's the beginning.
Yep.
yeah, and Liz had been working. She had some friends here in Utah, and there was a company called Shabby Apple, and they were super innovative when they started. And I don't know.
It was C.K. Woolley and Emily McCormick, and I went to high school with them. And again, I just love how everything was just so interconnected, and all of these people, I really believe, walk into your life for a reason. And they were looking for a factory because their factory had burned down in India or something crazy. I don't know. And usually we wouldn't take their orders because they were so small, but we needed the work. And so we started sewing dresses for them, and then we started designing some dresses for them. But then Dave was thinking, well, if we do dresses for them and sell them on consignment. So, you know, now we were making $5, $10 a unit, which was like, whoa, this is like huge. Like, we're literally making 100 times more than we would if we were just sewing, cut and sew. And so Dave was like, hey, our factories are really good at swimwear and fitness. Like, let's start a swimwear and fitness brand. And
So you just leaned on the
Well, the factory
where you
workers were like their
were
expertise.
really dialed in.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing that Dave always talks about is what's in your wheelhouse? Like, why, you know, what do you know? What are you passionate about? What problems do you actually know how to solve for? Work in that lane. Like, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Like, work with what you know and with the different strengths that you have and the resources that you have around you.
Well, I was going to ask that. You already answered the question. I was like, why swimwear? Why? but it was already ingrained in what you did. It was
Yeah.
where you had
And
expertise.
it's so hard to do swimsuits.
Is it?
Swimsuits are probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing
Why
to
is
sew.
that?
It's because of the fabric is so stretchy. And the tolerances are so small. Like you have to think of a strap, it's a half an inch thick. Your tolerances are an eighth of an inch. If you're an eighth of an inch too wide, that order's going to get rejected from somebody. So super, super strict tolerances on very small measurements, stretchy fabric. It makes the pattern very difficult.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so Dave we drew up logo, graphic design. Now guess what? Dave gets to come back to his passion and his craft,
all of your sacrifice led you right back to get you aligned with your passion.
Well, it was desperation, but at the same
It was.
time,
It 100% was.
But
Yeah.
What made you think that you could just design women's swimsuits?
well, I think it was like we do it together, and like a lot of the silhouette. I would say Liz mostly does the silhouettes, and especially early on, and I put the prints on, and so it
But
kind of
not just the prints. And you have to think like at this point, the problem we were solving for is I was looking for one-piece swimsuits. I was a new mom. I wasn't feeling super comfortable in my body. And I think culturally, like one pieces made sense in Utah with our culture, right?
Sure.
And it wasn't something, it was a need that actually millions of women in America were looking for, but there just weren't any cute ones.
Yeah.
It looked like a Speedo swimsuit. There were no cute one pieces. Look at how far we've come in 15 years, what one piece swimsuits look
Yeah.
like today
Yeah.
versus what they
Yeah.
looked like then. And so, we had a problem to solve for. Dave was creating beautiful pieces of art, like beautiful floral designs, watercolored, oil paintings. Like he would get the flower arrangement and he would create this beautiful piece of art, repeat it, and that's what was on the swimsuit. So it wasn't just like a lap swimsuit. Like now we were creating luxury one piece.
The Shabby Apple
Yeah.
people are super cool, and they kind of help, especially the early on. They help with it too, and like that first launch we did with them, it just killed it.
Yeah.
Like the swims, like Liz is saying, there was a demand there that was unrealized.
Wow.
Yeah. And so they let us sell the swimsuits on their website for consignment under the
Amazing.
Albion name.
It was awesome.
Was that the first name you came up, Albion Fit? That was it?
There were a couple others that we were looking
What were
at.
some others that you were thinking about?
Like I remember, like Bloom. I think we did.
Yeah.
I don't
remember
know what
Find. Remember Find?
Fendheim.
Time.
Findheim.
We were gonna go into like men's.
What is that?
We did women's swimsuits, but we did men's. So it was like maybe it's like a men's like athletic apparel, but it felt a little German.
It
Yeah.
feels very German. I was like, I'm trying to think of like the.
I'm Scottish, man.
Is there a hiking
I
trail
know.
around here?
No, we're just like, hey, let's we're
Dave
trying
took
to think
German
of
in
like
high school.
Switzerland.
Oh.
We were thinking like a Switzerland kind
Yeah.
of like outdoor.
We're not
like,
saying, look, we didn't go for it. For a
okay,
reason.
yeah. I mean,
Okay.
you asked us which our bad ones were.
Well, that's a really bad one. Like, no,
Yeah.
when I think of Findheim, I'm not
Don't.
gonna lie.
Don't think
yeah.
I
about it.
think of like some German citizen who's in the army
Yeah.
who's forced to wear this.
Gray,
Yeah.
black.
Yeah,
It's
it was
like the
okay.
actual
I
opposite
don't know.
of what we did.
I think maybe we should do that.
I think
just
that was
as-
Dave's
Albion
idea.
Basin.
for
You know what?
fun.
The Albion Basin. Albion really resonated. Okay.
It does. It does. Like it's a
Yeah.
meaningful. I think that's a meaningful
Yeah.
name.
I do, and like here, I think everybody, both the Cottonwood Canyons, there's such a part of people who live in Salt Lake.
You know how lucky we are around here to have those canyons. Like
Yeah.
you go up there. You guys have been around the world. There's
I know.
other
correct.
beautiful spots
Yes.
around the world that competes. Those
Albion
two things.
Basin?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
wildflowers. I mean,
Even looking
Yeah.
back, when you're up there by Alta in the wintertime and you look back down the canyon and you see that big peak up there, it does, that's great, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, wait. You're still in Guatemala though. You're still
Yeah.
now you've started your company,
Mm-hmm.
Albion, and you're still full time in Guatemala.
yeah, we're still full time in Guatemala, but things are getting really dangerous down there. And
Dangerous
we're driving to work
politically,
and like gangs. We drove to work. We were planning a trip to Salt Lake. I remember to go visit, and 3 days before we went, we were on our way to work. Traffic stopped, and a bus driver had been murdered. Like 2 cars in front of us. They weren't paying their whatever to the mafia people,
Yeah.
and our girls were just. They stood out. They were twins. They looked exactly the same. They had light hair, and we just didn't like all the attention that they were getting, and it felt uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
so we came to Salt Lake and said, we were living with my parents at this time. The four of us were very close. We said goodbye to my parents, like we were going to come back, but we never went back. And I remember I woke up like the night before we were supposed to go back to Guatemala, and I just was like, oh, we can't go back.
Is this a thing with Liz? This intuition? This has come up a couple different times in the story, like very intuitive decision making.
Yeah. Yeah, she's good. She's good like that.
Like being able to recognize it. I'll have feelings and then I'm like, what is wrong with you? That's the dumbest thing. Don't do that.
You know what? I do think that I get sometimes these
like
intuitive
big strokes,
thoughts.
big strokes.
But I will say,
there's some big strokes.
But then when it comes to designs, it's like, I swear everyone I've ever picked, yours are always the winners. Like if you're like, we should do this one. I'm like, I don't know.
And you're off.
And
You're not
I'm
on the
off.
design.
Dave is
she's-
always
she's
right.
good.
He's the guy.
No.
Always right.
What's your I don't want to get off the story here because we're on a good track here. I wanted to ask you about football. No, I'm just kidding.
I want to talk. Let's like 90s. Let's like bombing those bombs, or like that long bomb. You throw a long bomb. The guy pitches it to the other guy, scores a touchdown.
Yeah, it was Brian Rowley who caught it, pitched it. I know.
That was a great pass. I mean, I know they're going to
Let's be
talk about the
honest.
lateral, but that pass, I mean,
you're right. The pass never gets credit. But Brian Rowley it was a desperate time in that. I almost felt like we were in that situation. I could relate that to you guys being at the very bottom. We were in desperate mode. It was like late, in timemes running out sort of thing. I was feeling some desperation. Jack Johnson playing in my head.
But it's a Hail Mary,
It was.
and that's
You
what
guys
that
threw a Hail
Albion was our
Mary.
Hail Mary.
Yeah.
100%.
I love
it was
it.
a Hail
I love
Mary.
how we see. We got
Yeah.
football into this.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what's your inspiration? Like, okay, so you've gone from this point of we're just going to cut and sew and send it back, and then the factories are like, no, we have to do full package, and so now you're going through this part of the business, and now you're designing. Now you're your own company. You're sourcing everything. You're designing it, and now you're selling it.
But it was still our side hustle.
But it was still your side
It was
hustle.
still a side hustle because there just was not enough revenue. So we're still working
Gotcha.
for Shabby Apple. We're working for Callaway. We're working for BB. We're working for these other companies,
Okay.
which is maybe we're squeaking by. We still have a couple $100,000 of debt that we're trying to pay off. It's all on our credit cards.
yeah. It's intense.
But within like 6 months of us being in Salt Lake, we're living in Dave's parents' basement. We're trying to figure out what our next plan is. We're just trying to do that stuff in Salt Lake versus in Guatemala. And at this point, Dave and I have essentially purchased the factory from my dad and mom because we assumed their debt.
Okay.
So we have the debt on our credit cards, the debt that they had, and so that's the arrangement that we made. And someone comes to us and says, "Hey, it actually was my friend who cut my hair. Hey, I know someone who's the general manager of this new mall that they're opening up downtown in Salt Lake. It's going to be called City Creek. It's the only mall opening up west of the Mississippi in 2011.
2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Or 2011. Yeah, it was 2011.
Yeah.
Terrible. That was a hard time.
No one's spending money on marketing. It's, everyone's lost all their money, and this giant mall, $1 billion,
Yeah.
is coming into Salt Lake, and they're looking for a local swimwear fitness company.
That specific?
Very specific.
What?
They had one space
Yeah,
in the
so
mall
she's
that was
cutting her
not
and she's like,
filled.
we're just looking for this like a swimwear. Do you know anybody? And she's like, and she was super helpful with us, and she was like, she'd help us with a bunch of stuff. And
So we
wow.
meet the City Creek people while it's still in construction. I still remember walking down this hallway and trying to envision what this thing was going to look like. This is going to be a retractable roof. And I'm like, where are we? What's going on? And they have this space, and they offered it to us. And it was like 3,000 square feet. And they tell us that the rent is like $30,000 a month. And Dave and I were like, that's so great. Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you for what a
We
nice
do not
offer.
email back. We're like,
No.
that's crazy. We can't do that.
Yeah.
They email us back and say, hey, this is where you negotiate. And so Dave and I are like, okay.
They were pretty cool to us.
They were so good to
they're
us.
just kind of
Really?
held our hand kind of through the.
So helpful. Dave and I throw out a crazy number. They're like, tell us how much you can afford. And it's opening in like 4 weeks. Okay.
I know, and we're like, okay, this is what we think. Like, honestly, we could do $2,000 a month.
How did you
$2,000 a
decide on
month.
2,000?
We was like, that was like what that was as much as we could spend. We're just like, this sounds dumb, but we at least have to reply because they asked us to reply. You know, we're just being polite.
That's a bold move.
Like, hey, but it was like, hey, we know,
30,000.
yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Guess what? They took it.
Yeah.
They took it for $2,000.
They didn't you? Did you say back? This is where you negotiate.
Yeah, no, exactly. This is where
Well, they
Yeah.
knew. We're like, okay, this place is so cool. Like, we're gonna put in these big like dressing
Displays.
rooms and these displays.
Yeah.
They're like, whoa. Don't touch anything. Make everything temporary. Don't spend a lot of money.
So
on
we didn't
this.
look through the contract very carefully, and it was a temporary contract for 6 months, and we didn't understand that. We thought we were in there for indefinitely, you know.
At $2,000 a month.
Anyway, so we open up, and friends and family come, and we start. Maybe we're bringing in like $4,000 a month. Like, we're probably breaking even, but to us, that's like, oh, that's pretty
But
good.
it's
Doing
cool.
all right.
You know,
'Cause
we're breaking
for how much
even.
we spent. Like, it was crazy that it even resonated. But it really, once people tried on the stuff, they were like, oh, this is awesome. Like, they were, like, the clothes sold. Like, we didn't know retail other than Liz's Crate and Barrel experience.
I
which
worked there
killed
for
it.
4 months.
But at the same
Seasonal
time,
help.
yeah. But the clothing was good.
The clothing was good. And but yeah, we didn't know we were having to move out of the space until people started coming in measuring like the floor, and we're like, what's going on?
Like,
and
that's
we
weird.
call City Creek, and they're like, this is a temporary lease. Like, the people are coming in December. You need to be out October
Well,
Did
no,
they
1st.
lease?
so we
Did
gotta-
they already lease it to?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was already
Like
leased.
they
to
were
someone.
negotiating lease. They just couldn't come in time. So they just need
Yeah.
somebody to fill it for a few months.
And we're like, we just opened April 1st. We've got to be
That's
out of here October 1st. We're not even going to be here for the holidays.
Yeah.
And it was demoralizing. We're
It
like,
was so
everyone's going
bad.
to think we failed.
Yeah, because like
you know,
our signs up
Yes.
there, everybody goes down there. This is when everything was going down there. Everybody goes down to see the lights.
yeah.
Everybody's like, oh,
And it would just be the Albion
nice
sign,
try,
empty
guys.
store.
You know, like just
was-
like people just
yeah.
that was hard. You know, you're just like, dude, but like just give us a shot. You know,
But they offered us another location on the corner of South Temple, right by Allen Edmonds, and it was really pretty much the armpit of the mall. I mean, it was.
but to us,
670 square
like
feet
full
From
circle.
3,000.
from three.
Well,
Yes,
full circle. We worked with that. First law firm was like right around there.
Curtin McConkey.
Yeah,
It was in the Curtin McConkey building.
So they're like, okay, we'll offer it.
No
we're
way.
just like, yeah, that kind of. We're like,
And not only this, they're
we're bringing
telling
it
us,
home.
They're telling us, they're like, well, you'd have to be really careful with the building because the attorneys are really, really strict and they're going to get mad at you. Guess whose office was right above us? Dave's dad's office was the
Bruce.
actual Bruce,
Yes.
Bruce was right.
Yes.
right above us, and so he wouldn't care if we were making like all of these things
There's
were
too
coming
many
into place.
coincidences in
It
your
was
story.
so
was cool.
crazy. It was so crazy. So we took the leap of faith, and while the store was closed for those 4 months, Dave built the website himself. We started
Well,
shipping.
my brother too. Me and my brother we were on it. But
Well, you designed it.
us together, we did it.
Anyway,
You can take some credit.
yeah. So we just started designing some stuff and getting the website ready. We got the website launched. We sold like 30 times what we do in a day
Oh
at the
my
store the
gosh.
very first day, and we were like, oh,
Yeah, and that was because it was hard.
Wow.
You know, it was hard when
Yeah.
we closed the store, and we had a couple people were like, "Hey, just hang on." They were working for us at the store. We're like, "Hang on, we'll figure this out." You know, and we're
so
like,
they'd come over to our house. They'd pack and ship. I'd make them smoothies in the morning, like really and truly, like the most quintessentially stereotypical startup, in our
Yeah.
basement.
just like walking
shipping.
over to the
Yeah.
holiday, post office
office.
with like this bin,
Of
just like
boxes.
Oh,
Yeah.
we got more. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it was like,
Yes.
that was-
100%.
yeah.
And for that first season, we started doing well, but we still had these other businesses because meaning we were sewing for Callaway and those other places because we just weren't sure.
You didn't want to take the
what
full.
would happen.
Yeah, yes.
But we got through the holiday season and we didn't have merchandise on our walls because we were sacrificing sewing for those other places instead of for us. And so that next January, I think Dave and I just realized we had to go all in. Like there's no way we could succeed at Albion if we weren't really willing to put all of the chips on the table. And so we stopped working with those other contracts and just went for it. And I would write the product descriptions, and we started an Instagram feed and started working with influencers before everybody else was working with influencers and Dave was designing these beautiful swimsuits, and we started doing community events, and it just started.
And we started getting
snowballing.
There were some really key people that came on that early on that just like. There was Aubrey Burt, right? And she knew retail. She was a buyer for another place, and she's like, I went to your store, whatever. Like, I could help you guys. And our store it would do all right, but
It was like a showroom.
kind of like a showroom.
Yeah.
When she started helping us, it would start making
Like customer service,
Yeah.
and merchandising, and
there was a bunch of people like that, key people, that just like come into your life and like take something that we're just like trying to do and like just make it excellent, and just like way bigger than just us.
And we were all learning together, which was still one of my favorite parts about Albion is we've never had someone come in to this day who's like, oh, I've had, well, maybe Dave King had experience before.
Yeah,
He's pretty awesome.
He's pretty
been really
cool.
helpful. So he's the exception. But really, it's just been a bunch of people learning along the way. And even, Zach Jones, we're talking about Reggie's
Yes.
brother. Zach started working with us 8 years ago, and he worked with a VC. Like he had just gotten like an economics degree. He didn't know anything about order
but he is
points
super
and,
smart,
you know,
and some of the analytics stuff that like those guys did early on with us really like were ahead of their times. Like he was doing stuff that we didn't even like know was important. I don't know if you ever have those people in your life where you bring them on your team and they're like, okay, I'm curious about these 3 things. You're not even like, they're not even on your radar. I'm bringing them in and I'm going to make this like amazing.
And he really, so many people created positions for themselves, which is so, meaning like we didn't even know what we needed, but we just knew we needed good people. And we knew we were on this bus. We didn't even know where we were going, but it was like, we need you, and you. Like, get on this bus. We're going to figure out where we're going together. And like, you're going to be the map guy, and you're going to be the, the DJ. And like, it's like everyone just figured out their own parts. And it's been like one of the greatest accomplishments of our life, just to see our team become experts in their industry, self-taught,
Well, I know you mentioned that self-taught, but I think there's maybe something deeper than that. I know part of your story is you talk about some of your operators who were not skilled when they started, and down this path, then they're running 4 different machines or 4 different stations.
Right.
But we talked about it from the very beginning. Your experience in the copy room, working together as a team, finding joy in your work. I feel like that's something that is ingrained in your personalities, and that's a way that you approach your work and building out Albion. So maybe you're just attracting that because of the way you've built it.
I think we've been lucky to find like-minded individuals.
Yeah. And
We really have.
It's hard, man. Like fashion, really fickle, and things change really fast. And I think we're all pretty grateful for the opportunity. And I think we found people that are grateful and understand that, and just want to make something, want to create. And I feel like we have found a bunch of people, or even if they're like in analytics, they're still creating and they're still coming up with these problem solve, and like, I do think that that's a tenet of like a bunch of curious people who like actually what, you know what I mean? Like they find joy. I do think we find joy getting up, because I've been there I've been in jobs where I have been like, okay, it's 4:36 and I'm leaving at 5. You know what I mean?
Leaving exactly at 5.
Yeah. And like, this is why I'm here, and then I will be done. Like, but
this is the thing about Dave, and I think is so important. Dave, when we hire people, the first thing that he tells people is, hey, best idea wins here at Albion. Best idea wins. And it doesn't matter who it comes from. Like if it's coming from me, if it's coming from the intern, if it's coming from the store person, we're all going to come together. We're all going to listen to it, and the best idea is going to win. And we have done that for 13 years. And there's no egos at Albion. There's no egos. Everyone is so
well, there's a lot of
collaborative.
egos, and there's a lot of people who have won. But at the same time, I think everybody comes.
Well, it's not about them, I guess.
Yeah,
is what
and
I mean.
everybody comes to a point where like everybody comes down to a level where you're like, hey, we're listening and we're seeing what's resonating. And I think it has made us.
I'm not saying we're not proud. I'm just saying there's no I in team. Going back to the sports analogies, there's no I in team here.
I love this part of the story because, I could go back to your days with Larry Gelwicks at Highland, and I've talked to people who've been on that team, and it's a very similar situation to what you're describing. Like, there's no egos on the team. It's we're all in this together.
I would
we're
say
all headed down the same path.
A lot of it, there's a lot that comes from that, and at least on my perspective, Liz gives a totally different perspective. But like half the things I ever say, well, I would say 99%. It's like, okay, what did I learn back? From him
so
or
true.
some other person. Like I had some really great coaches, and he was amazing. And there's some things that you saw and you lived in that have seeped into other places. And I'm always trying to remember what those people are saying, because my life, I've been super blessed, man. Growing up here in Salt Lake in the 90s, it was a great time. And
things happening at the U. I mean, it was good.
Yeah, right. But seriously, even the group of people, like coming out, even the people I went, like we've leaned on so many people, like the people I went to high school with, it's like a contractor, but it's like amazing at what they do, or something like that, where it's like, oh, this person can help, we grew up in a great time, man, with great mentors.
And people showed up for us. I mean,
I know you keep
can't
saying
even,
that,
like,
and I'm going to push back on both of you, because you're very, as much as you want to say you're lucky that people have come into your life, and I think there's truth to that, but you've also been very intentional, from my point of view, about the culture that you want to develop and the culture that you have at Albion currently. And that goes back to the way you saw your dad and mom treat people in the community, and how the importance of building those relationships came back to you when you were at the very bottom. You couldn't go anywhere but up.
And I would add to that too, seeing Dave's dad, I think he was known as like the most honest attorney. Like that man has so much integrity.
And people don't say those two words together.
It's true though. Like Bruce Finley,
it's hard to,
if you talk to anyone, it's like that man would never had so much integrity, and Dave's mom, so much integrity, like a teacher, and so dedicated to her family, and so much service. We came from such great parents and families that taught us the most important values, and really taught us the importance of surrounding yourself with people who want to make you a better person.
And we've done that. If there's one thing we've done, is we've recognized talent, and we've recognized some just amazing people. And you do create this room where you're hanging out with people for most of your life. And we picked some great ones, man, that are just inspiring.
Well, you just said surrounding yourself with people who want to make you better, but it's just you've attracted that because you've done that. You wouldn't leave Guatemala. Like lots of people would have left Guatemala, and you couldn't leave the people who were around you. I think you've just done an amazing job of attracting that, just by the way that your lives have unfolded and the way you've built what you've been able to build. It's because maybe you don't recognize it, or maybe you do, but you're just very intentional about things that you attract. I think we are pretty intentional. Yeah. About how important is the trust with the people you're working with and who are working for the company, and how do you utilize that in your business?
I don't know how you could have a successful business without trusting people, and so many different levels. I think if you really want to grow your business, you have to trust people. And I think at the beginning of Albion, because Dave and I had gone through so many difficult things, we were very controlling with, we did everything.
Well, I think
we did everything
hard,
ourselves,
man.
and we couldn't let go of certain responsibilities.
I would say some of the things that were so big did break some trust at the beginning. We couldn't keep everybody, right? That sucked. It sucks to be like, sorry, like you trusted us to work, but we can't make this happen. And it's hard, but like we're very conservative, like fiscally, because we've been through that, and building that trust, like, hey, we pay on time. That's something that's like a tenet of ours. We pay on time, and like you will get paid. If we say we're going to pay you, we will pay you. These things. When you're like an entrepreneur, it's so easy. It's even easy when you're trying to be aspirational, like, hey, we're going to take care of you. And instead of setting expectations like, hey, this is going to be hard. And that's a trust thing too. It's hard not to be like, hey, we're going to do all these things when you really can't back it up 100%, And so I think trust is like setting expectations, overperforming, but under kind of selling what you're going to do, you know, those kind of things. But those are like some of the most basic things that like, we're going to lay off half our workforce or something like that. Like, ooh, like, sorry, like that just happened. I don't think that just happens. Like somebody, you know what I mean? Like that's a trust thing. And like during the pandemic, it was a big deal to us to like keep our whole team intact.
Yeah.
And Liz came up with this thing and our guys and girls, like they came up with these ideas to keep everybody working in different places. And like,
we wrote a letter to our team. I think it was like March 12th of 2020. And because we had literally gone through that. And I'll never forget, maybe 2 months before, we had some friends come and say, Liz and Dave, Albion's killing it. Like, aren't you so proud of yourselves? And Dave, his go-to is always, you know, everything could fall apart. Like, we're going to keep going. But like, who knows what tomorrow will bring? And our friends were like, you're crazy. And then the pandemic hits and it's spring break. And that's our high season. And our whole campaign that year was book the trip, buy the suit. Okay. Like, we are a travel company and everyone stopped shopping. People can't find food. I mean, it was a terrifying time. We had 4 stores at that time. And we had people who thought that they had a place to go. Anyway, it was terrifying. We wrote a letter that said, hey, we're keeping it. You're not going to lose any hours. Like, we're going to pay everyone's salaries 100%. We're going to do this indefinitely. Like, you can count on us. And we were building a house at the time. We paused our house to make sure that we had money in case that we needed to get money out to pay for our team. Like, there was no question that that was the route that we were going to go. And I think what Dave is saying is that for us, yes, I think as business owners, you need to trust your team, but it is equally important for your team to be able to trust you.
I was hoping that's where it would go, and it went exactly in that place, is that you obviously demonstrate trust in your team, but it's intent. Like, these are the things. Writing that letter, being intentional about it, creates the trust back. You said something in one of the previous, I can't remember if it was an article or a podcast, about don't get used to quitting or something like that. And as an entrepreneur, did you guys walk into this with this steely determination, or did you develop this toughness?
This is plan D, you know? I mean, we've been beaten. I mean, it's been nice because we've seen some really difficult times. So we're like, hey, we got this. We've seen some bad stuff happen, and you know, we know that there's potentials, and so we've had some blows, you know, and we've been able to overcome it, and that's nice. It's also nice to have that team. Like, we have a core group that's like, man, that's a crazy idea, Liz, Dave, like, or whatever, you know, like core group in Guatemala, but like, we got you, like, we'll try it. And that's a creative thing, but it's a little crazy. Like, they're in it with us, you know, they're like, we have pattern makers and designers down there too. And, you know, they were like, hey, we've been with these guys and we've been through some really hard stuff and we gotten to the other side and it's been great. And I think with the team in Utah too, we've been through some tough things that happen, and going through them together, it's different, you know, and it does kind of like, you bring that confidence and that trust, like, hey, when things are bad, this is how we're going to operate, and we can count on each other because we've done it before.
And I think we are very keenly aware of every time we've faced a failure, really and truly. It really has been a learning opportunity, and we have been learning every single day along this journey. When we first started Albion, we would launch something on Friday, okay? We would see how the sales did on Saturday, Sunday. We would start sewing. Maybe we would launch it on like a Thursday. Start sewing Thursday, Friday. See how sales went on the weekend. We would place the PO like on Monday. Ship FedEx on Tuesday. And then get it to the customers on Wednesday and Thursday. I mean, that process of this speed to market and having very small liability, like small inventory, that we use that exact same business model when the pandemic hit, where we couldn't ship anything. Airlines, we airship everything from Guatemala to Salt Lake still. And we couldn't fly on Delta. We couldn't use any of the airlines because they were shut down. So guess what we did? We shipped everything FedEx again. We would wait to see what orders would come through. We would put the orders together and then we would ship. So it was so interesting. Like, all of those trials, all of those they were all little learning moments that we've learned along the way. And they have come back so many times, maybe in a different iteration, you know, but they've helped us be able to continue this company's growth. And
you mentioned something interesting. By the way, just as an aside, what was that slogan you were using right before spring break? Book your
Oh, yeah. Buy the suit, book your trip.
Buy the suit, book your trip.
Yeah.
That would not have resonated with me had you said that yesterday. But today, as I was talking to one of our guys who works here, and I'm saying,
Yeah.
hey, Albion Fit's coming. He was like, Albion Fit? Well, we're going on a cruise. And my wife went to, and I was like, and then you just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really a thing.
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah.
all excited now about.
I love that.
I think she can't determine which style she's going to get, or
She
maybe
should
which
just get both.
design. I think there's more than both.
Always selling.
I think that's the part of the issue. It's more than both. Okay, so you were talking about you were learning along the way, and that's a question I wanted to ask you because neither of you took any sort of like you wanted to be a literature professor
I
for
studied
heaven's sake, and
female
you're
confessions in the 18th century.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that lend itself to understanding how to build culture and build relationships?
I think
and
we've leaned on Dave's. Honestly,
on his what? On his graphic design.
Yeah.
degree?
No, I think we've leaned on his team. Like his
His
he
team
is such
experience.
a sports guy,
I
as
know.
like being a
I'm so
captain of a
glad.
team and being the only sports I've played is tennis, and I played singles. Like I am not a team player, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so
you
it's
are.
been really, it's been.
Liz
I've
has a
learned
great
lot.
mid-range jump shot. If you need like a end of the
that right?
game,
I'm really good at horse.
end of the game, Liz will
yeah,
hit.
that's true.
She'll hit it.
Thanks.
She's like the Robert Ory of the
Yes, exactly.
End of the game.
Exactly.
That's where
Yes.
the ball's going.
Yes.
No, I think why did a writer and an artist end up in this situation? I think we literally leaned on, we had that resource of a factory, we had a resource of experts in a field, we had Dave's resource of being really a talented designer. My writing, it did help, like to be
Yeah.
able to put together a blog or an
Sure.
Instagram post or whatever, being
And we've
able-
met some really like the influencer thing was such an early thing, and it's so cool. Liz really created these great relationships with people, and like over the years, they all like kind of blew up, and they have their own space, and they're really kind of big in each of what they're doing, and we all kind of grew up together, and they're really nice to us, and they always kind of like came back and did extra things for us just to make sure we're okay. And we had a great photographer who's just amazing and took epic pictures and
videographer friends who
Yeah.
we would take on trip. We love to travel.
Yeah.
Perfect example. Like leaning into what we know. Dave and I
Yeah.
love to travel. And so, of course, one of the first campaigns we ever did for Albion was let's take some great friends who are good content creators who at the time had like 10,000 followers. I mean, it wasn't a lot. This was 13 years ago. And we took them to Guatemala.
and they did like the same
And we did the same trip that we did
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
you know?
like went up to Tikal, went up to Real Dulce, like just around.
Showed them the factory.
Yeah.
And just
Got
went
some
on an
great-
adventure together and got great content. But it was so
Yes.
natural to us because that's what we would do with our friends. And these were our friends.
I think that's
You know?
part of the story is that it is very, you do have staged photo shoots and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but there is this thing people can identify with it being in that natural
Yeah.
kind of space, and that lent itself to this. I think you went through several years, maybe a decade of kind of organic marketing
100%.
because
We didn't start paying for ads until 3.5 years ago.
And that first, like the first
Yeah.
video they did with Guatemala, and I think it was just kind of different because it was Guatemala and it was
It's the Divines, Haley and Brad Divine. It's
yeah,
the
they
most
did this,
beautiful-
and it got like
It went viral.
It went viral, and so like all the people at the factory, like their friends were sending it to them, and they're like, "Oh, you seen this video?" And they're like, "What?"
Like Guatemalans were
that's-
so proud of it.
like that's our mark, like
yeah.
like it was so cool. Like another thing is like beautiful place, and there's some amazing places, but like that doesn't get seen as much, and it was so
just
cool they
our
made that
homage,
video.
Yeah, to like this place that was so special to us for so many different reasons. Yeah, it's such a beautiful country and the beautiful people, beautiful culture. And I mean, forever it's going to play. It's, we still sew in Guatemala. People always ask us, why aren't you taking on, anyway, big investors or something? And, the one thing that everyone wants to do is like, oh, we'll handle your manufacturing and we'll move it to Asia. And it's like, no, like we're never going to not sew in Guatemala. Like those are our people,
I mean, honestly, that changes the entire story. How do you take it from that place. There's so
Yeah.
much history.
There's so much history, and that's not to say we won't grow into other
Sure.
periods, but like Guatemala will always be at the core.
That's your
at the heart.
foundational story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it interesting that without these significant business backgrounds, like your story and your company is a case study for business success and things that you do just naturally. Like I took a course on building culture. All of the stuff that they teach in the course, and it's, is very aligned with the stuff that you had to learn
Well,
through
I'm sure
experience.
you could teach a course on culture
Yeah.
building too. I mean, just walking
Yeah.
in here and just
Yeah.
seeing
I
how
know. This is
amazing
the
everybody
coolest
is.
place.
People are just
This is cool. Like people are just coming
afraid
up
of
to
me.
us. No, people don't just come up to you when it's like, you know what I mean? Feel like I fill the room, And sometimes when we've gone into places, even in our own thing, you're like, oh, you just feel the vibe, And it's a big deal. And coming in here, everybody's like, what's up? Like everybody came, like, you know what I
So
mean?
friendly,
and
yeah.
and it is like light. It just feels light. And whatever that feeling is, that's the thing where work can be so the other way. It can change really fast, But like just like that thing where it is like a sanctuary almost, you try to make it as like where people feel like, oh, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna see some friends, and I'm gonna see some friendly faces.
And people that you can count on no matter what. And
Yes.
we stayed in office. So, during the pandemic, everything was closed for 6 weeks, and
Yeah.
we've always been in office. And then our team, they all wanted to come back to office. And so we've actually been in office for the last 4 years, five years. We never did not stay in the office. And there's pros and cons, I understand. But for me, the biggest pro is our team is so close. So close. And there's things that happen in our personal lives where there aren't other people that I would want to lean on, And I know that the feeling is mutual, and we spend so much time together.
Absolutely.
And that bond is really important.
We've grown a little bit, but we were much smaller during the pandemic, and we had the same experience. We went home for 2 weeks, and no one could stand
Yeah.
there was a core group that couldn't stand being home for
Yeah.
2 weeks. We had to be together.
Yeah.
So we just came back to the office.
We became our own bubble, and it was like, I can
it
count on these people
It did
no
make
matter
it.
what.
I mean, it made it kind of nicer to just not even like they kind of made the decision for us.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was
And I think we all got through it pretty well. I mean, everyone was really positive, and anyway, I'm really grateful for that experience. I think we all really learned a lot.
Yeah, we did as well. I think there's nothing more valuable than being together.
Yeah.
I visited with a very well-known large brand, and their philosophy since the pandemic has been complete remote work. And the company's still going. It's big. I mean, it'd be hard to fail. But there has been, according to the people I've spoken with, a significant change in the culture
For sure.
of the company. You just can't manage that over
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
Yeah, I agree.
As being
and
around.
collaboration is
Absolutely.
key for us.
No,
and I think
no question.
at the end of the day, we kind of joke, we don't have titles at Albion. We were just talking about like, what does this guy do?
Yeah.
We 100%, everyone wears a lot of hats there, but it's what's so great is no one is limited. No one's in their lane. We have a new line that we're trying to do for the University of Utah, BYU, and Dave sends out a memo to the whole company. Everybody, send us your designs. We're having a team meeting at this time. The accountant, the controller sending in her designs, the graphic designer sending in her designs, the production guy sending us it's just, there's no limit to ideas, and just seeing everybody work together. I think, anyway, it's awesome. It's very
When you get
collaborative.
when you get the designs from like the controller or the finance people, do you just set those aside and giggle?
Dude,
'Cause they're so
our
terrible.
controller is like best dressed.
dude, she's best.
She's
dressed.
best dressed.
Really?
She's
Oh, yeah.
seriously. We found the perfect. She's amazing.
That doesn't fit into
I
the
know.
I know, but
controller
I
box.
know.
it gives a little bit. It does give kind of a diverse group, and like it's interesting just to see how it all goes. But it is such a fickle thing, and things change, and we just try to keep ourselves at a point where like, hey, we have our ideas, and we know like there's some good design tenets that we're always gonna like adhere to. But I think we are pretty good at like funneling in these ideas, and at least historically we've been good at like identifying some ideas, and then like what's good is we do have a group of designers at work now, and like they can take this idea, we have this concept, that might be okay, but then they make it excellent, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I think we're good at. You're pretty good at this, man. I mean,
Stop
saying.
it.
I mean,
Stop it.
this
You
is-
guys are
Like I
making
said,
it
you
so
guys can keep
easy.
going.
Well, I'm excited. For some reason, I just didn't know. I didn't realize that you had a men's line. And so I am super excited to dig into that because you have a few things on there that I like. The light hoodie is one of my favorite pieces of clothing these days. So we're going to have to.
We'll get you taken care of.
We're going to have
Yeah.
to talk. We're
Yeah.
going to have to take care of that. But this is my favorite part of the podcast. I do 3 random questions.
like hot seat.
But it's not really. We'll see where it goes. I do want to ask you about this. I'm amazed that you guys have figured out how to work together so productively and be married under all of these crazy circumstances. So I'm going to ask you first. What is the best thing about Liz? And
The worst.
what is the worst?
The best, I think, and just like working with Liz, because she's got those eyes, those doe eyes.
Don't.
Really, it's being in there with somebody, and it is nice. Like, I think a lot of people share a lot of things, but we share a lot, and it's hard. The hard times are, sometimes it's almost nice that we get to share those times because we both have empathy for like the situation, and I think some spouses don't understand the true situation, what people are going through. And so that's nice. It's hard. But the highs, man, are so cool. Like just being like just sharing that. It is like we share those wins and we share these experiences where it's like there's been so many, like this is for me, my life, this whole journey. And it has been like going through like not what I expected, but like it is like I've met so many cool people and we've met them, we know them, and like we've met all these people and we've done all these things that I just don't think I would have done in my life, and I've had to extend myself, and we both extended ourselves in ways that like I didn't think was possible, and we're like whatever, or like we're right here. This is so crazy. Like, you tell me that I'm going to be on some podcast. Like, come on. Like, it's so cool. And to be with Liz and to go through this, like, it's fun. Like, this has been fun for me. I don't know. But, like, having these experiences, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is really cool. And I would say this is cool to be a part of that and to, like, kind of share in that. And, it's hard, man. We're fighting. Like, our team, like, we're yelling at each other, you know, and we're trying to
They're like,
keep
are
it
they
cool.
going to make it?
I know. Like really. Like, some
And then
days
like
are
2
tough,
minutes
man.
later, we're like, oh, Dave, I love you. Love you, Liz. You're the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, and sometimes you're fighting, and it's like, oh, time out. We got to talk about something else. Like
The
we gotta
best
talk
is
about
we
something,
built this whole conference room on the back. So the way our office is kind of U-shaped, and Dave's and my offices are on one side, and everyone else's offices are on the other side, and then there's like a big open space in the middle. We put a conference room on the end so that Dave and I were like, we'll just duke it out in here. Like when we have hard conversations,
out here.
we'll just go over here.
That's your quiet
You
room.
know? But the funniest part was we're like, oh, this is great, soundproof walls. There's a conference room on the other side of that conference room. One day I was in that conference room.
Oh no.
And I could hear this guy just in his regular voice,
Yeah.
clear as day.
Or we can hear we're outside,
just like, what?
and we hear somebody like
They
around
could
our
hear
office.
everything. Anyway, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, so they've been
Yeah.
they're very patient with us.
There.
I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to preface it with this. Is Dave's passion overwhelming?
Yes. No,
I can feel it every time I ask him a question.
Yes.
Do you see him? How he starts like moving?
Yes, and it's so hard.
talking.
Truly, this is the hardest part.
It's
is
good,
I feel
and then
like,
it turns bad.
No,
You know?
we really are like a yin and yang, and it's hard because I feel like
That isn't good.
we have to balance each other out to make things work. And so it's funny. It's like if I'm the optimist, sometimes Dave has to be the realist. And so it is hard. There's this like constant trying to keep us balanced and somehow find what real is, you know, and it's hard to have that be the person you're closest to always have to be that person to bring you down or the person to bring you up.
Yeah.
But Dave, I've never met anyone like him before. His creative mind, he'll go down to Guatemala for 4 days and he'll come back with 200 prints. His brain never stops. He's so creative. He's so imaginative. He's so passionate, but he really loves what he does. And I think that's what drives all of us to want to just keep going. It's like, how can we keep up with him?
Well, not me.
Yeah.
This is Liz. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This
No,
This
it's
is like the
but
He is.
energizer.
Yes.
well,
Right here.
He
Well,
is.
I would say it's more Liz, but
You told
Really
me in the
guy.
beginning that he wants to deflect
He is.
all
He's
the-
very humble.
all the stuff. Yeah. Okay. This is a question for both of you. This is going to have to be the last question.
Okay.
'Cause
I love it.
I know you have to go.
Sorry.
Okay. If you could do anything over again, or if you could do anything differently, what would it be?
like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. If you told me, like, even with like, dude, we have a great life right now. We like things are going well. It's good. But if you were like, hey, would you do it all over again? Like, I don't know if I number one, I don't think that. I think is we had like a 1 in 6 chance of everything like happening how it happened. But like, there was so many hard parts of this that still to this day, I mean, I have regrets. Like, we could have been better, man. Like, I could have found I could have found better people at the beginning. Like, that was tough, man. Like, I
mean
lost.
clients?
Yeah.
Like, we lost. Like, that wasn't like for a solid 3 years or something. It was just bad. So there was a lot of things, especially at the beginning, where, yeah, I wish I was better, man. Or I wish I knew more. And going through that, like, still to this day, we take on these challenges, and I do kind of feel this, like, pain. Like, this is going to be painful. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be so cool, but there is going to be this pain of, like, figuring things out and, like, getting everything ready. That it's hard, and we're all going to go through this together, and it's going to be hard on a lot of people. And like, this is something we haven't figured out. So there's, that pain. I just, there is some of that. There's still to the, like, anyways, that's.
But it's also developed who you
Yeah.
are. Like,
Yes.
it's hard to. It's hard.
Yes.
It's like a tough workout. It's like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
I can't do
exactly.
that. I can't do that again. And then you figure out a way to get yourself ready, and you do it. And then
Yes.
on the other side, you're just like,
Yeah.
man, I'm so much better now.
Totally.
Yeah. What about you, Liz? Is there anything that you would change or do differently?
I really feel like, just like Dave is saying, I honestly wake up in the mornings and I just think, like, wow, we're so lucky. I just think things could have gone so badly so many times.
No kidding.
And so I think we had to learn the things that we learned, and I think they've taught us what we need to do. And who knows, you make a decision differently, and then maybe it just changes everything, I think people did tell us initially when we first started, I mean, very practically, when we started doing ads like 4 years ago, I wish we'd put more money into it. I don't think I had any idea how much harder it would get every year after that. And I think I'm so grateful we started our business when we did. I think it's a different market now to try to get in with Meta. And I wish we had invested more money in Meta.
Yeah, right.
Don't
Don't we
we're
all look
talking
back
about it.
on it?
I
I
feel
wish
like we should have done that. All the money that we spend in ads now, but
yeah. So now I'm poking around.
But
at
I'm
everything.
really
It's like,
grateful we grew organically as long as we did, because
Yeah.
I think we built a really strong, loyal customer base.
I think it fits the culture
Yeah.
perfectly.
So yeah, I think it all worked out the way it was supposed to.
You guys are amazing. I can't believe that the time has flown by.
This-
Like, it's
this is
flown by
cool.
for me.
No,
I
this
hope
is
that we
cool.
can get you back and do a check-in. Maybe, you know what? Let's do it during the football season.
Yeah.
We can start it off like a little.
I just want to walk with you
Preview.
around the stadium. I mean, come on.
No,
I
it gets
mean,
really.
Yeah,
It gets really busy doing stuff like that.
I know they're opening doors
Yeah.
for you.
Buying
That's why.
drinks, whatever.
You
I don't
know, some people call it the house that Frank built. I mean, I don't know. Listen, you guys have been amazing. It's a great story.
thank you.
It's an amazing story. It's an inspirational story. There's so much insight. And like I said, I hope you come back and do it with
Thank
us
you
again.
for letting us do
Yeah,
this. We
thanks a lot.
really appreciate talking about it and remembering. It's
Yes.
good for us
You
to
should.
remember.
It's such a great. I love it.
Thanks.
Liz, Dave, you guys are the best.
Thank
Come
you.
back and see us again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Know Your Ship podcast presented by eHub. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.